Come hang with the Woodward Sports Crew all throughout football season on Saturdays and Sundays. Join our college football and Detroit Lions live watch parties.
Inside the 5, caught, end zone, touchdown Detroit Lions!
With money on the line. Featuring different special guests and surprises. Start times will vary depending on the game. Only on our Woodward Sports YouTube channel.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Morning Woodward Show here on the Woodward Sports Network. It's Wednesday, October 25th. And, man, we got a packed show for you guys planned for today. As usual, Jeff Iafrate, Sam Flannel, JB, Lucas Klotz, the entire crew's here with you. And, man, it's that day. The Pistons start today. And same with the Redwings. They just lost last night, actually, in a close game. Due to some stupid penalties late in the game itself. But regardless, DeBrincat still got a goal. Hey,
he did.
If you want to talk about positives, Larkin got a goal. But still, we're going to have Kool-Aid join the show at 8:15 to help us kind of break down what's going on tonight. The Pistons play. They got some injuries they're dealing with. We'll get all the inside scoop from Kool-Aid, of course. But later on in the show, we're going to talk about Stephen A. Smith at 9 o'clock and what he said, calling the Detroit Lions frauds. Because I saw that floating around. And, Stephen A. Smith, he's a character, but we're going to break down that at 9 o'clock, 9:16. A move could be on the horizon for the Detroit Lions. And it's not a reliable source, but it's not even about the source itself. It's just about the conversation, about people that are available right now. You got the Titans basically saying, you know what, everyone's available. Derrick Henry's available. DeAndre Hopkins is available. You know what? We'll talk more about all that stuff at 9:16. 8:45, I want to have a conversation about Jared Goff and why I don't think it's time to panic. And I want to have the conversation with you all because I've seen the Jared Goff discussions over the last couple of days. People a week ago saying they'd re-sign him, and then all of a sudden after one game, now nobody wants to re-sign him. So we're going to have that conversation at 8:45. And then, of course, at 8:30, after Kool-Aid joins us, we'll talk a little bit about our expectations for the Pistons this year. Yeah, NBA talk, unfortunately. Sorry. The other part of it, though, did anybody watch the NBA last night? The opening night? I know I had Red Wings and I had the Lakers and Nuggets on, and then I turned on the Warriors and, of course, the Suns last night. But it was pretty cool. 2 good games I thought to have on for the first night. But you guys tuned in at all?
Oh, yeah. I definitely tuned in.
I know Neil was chirping you about Anthony Davis last night because he had 0 points in the second half.
Yeah, and that's fine. I mean, one game in an 82-game season just completely destroys a legacy, right? I mean, because that's just the way it works. You can't cherry pick every single player who ever played NBA basketball or MLB baseball or NFL football and say, oh, they played a bad game. It's a long season. It's all well and good. But I will say this. I know this makes me a little bit of a psychopath, and a lot of people don't like this, but I get a very, very sick satisfaction out of seeing Steph Curry lose. Even regular season games, I'm not going to overact too much like the Warriors are done, but I just like seeing Steph Curry lose.
It's funny. I've never... You might be the only person on planet Earth that thinks that way.
Really?
Yeah, why? Well, why?
I used to.
But why?
Just because,
what has Steph done to you?
It's nothing like that he's done to me personally, but it's just one of those things where I always like to see, I don't like to see the same teams winning over and over again. You know what I mean? Like during that Warriors, I hate dynasties. Dynasties annoy me. So it's just like one of those things. I have no problem with them now. But when there was the Splash Brother and shit, he was just not like himself, but he was so annoying if you're rooting for the other team. He was just unstoppable. And it was just there was nothing you could do to stop him. So he was so good, you hated to watch it. It was just oh my God, but you respect him at the same time.
Yeah, I don't. That's fair. If you hate dynasties, and I get that, because in sports, when a team or a franchise is winning consistently, you kind of just build up the. I don't know if that's your problem though, because we've talked about your disdain for Steph, and it more so has to do with what?
It's the fans. It's the conversations that I don't think he belongs in. I'm old enough to remember last year when the Warriors were playing the Lakers in that series, and people were saying, oh my God, if the Warriors beat the Lakers, if Steph is all of a sudden better than LeBron in the all-time rankings, and then when the Lakers waxed them, all the Golden State Warriors and Steph Curry super fans pretended that talk never happened. I remember that. I was there, and I was very, very happy to see Steph Curry go down, and the way that Steph Curry gets to pretend like he's kind of aw shucks and this cute little pinch his cheeks guy when he's actually the most cocky, showboaty guy I've ever seen in NBA history with his mouthpiece and his shimmying and all that every time he does anything good.
The most cocky player in NBA history.
Yeah, that's absurd.
That is a reach.
And the fact that he has won Finals MVP the same amount as Cedric Cornbread Maxwell and Andre Iguodala. I mean, that as well. That actually happens.
Hold on. How many other people in the NBA have an NBA Finals MVP? And he easily, you could have gave it to him instead of Durant that one year.
That's false.
I'm not saying that Durant wasn't good, but were you really going to throw a fit if Steph Curry won Finals MVP that year instead of Kevin Durant?
Absolutely.
I think that's egregious.
I would have, but to your point, Lucas, I wouldn't have. I wouldn't be as shocked as when they gave it to Iggy. It should have been Steph's award.
Yeah, he's gotten robbed.
He should have 2.
Yeah.
But I just don't understand, Sam Flannel, how you come after Steph Curry, but then you defend Anthony Davis to the death of you.
Well, because
that's what I'm confused. Like AD,
of
all people, you hit your wagon to AD.
Here is why: because Steph Curry is universally respected, as he should be. I'd say he's universally regarded as, at worst, a top 12 player of all time, and by some, a top 10 player of all time. And if you want to put him in your top 10, I'm not even mad at that. Steph Curry is an all-time great NBA player. But when it comes to Anthony Davis, people are actually questioning whether or not this man is going to the Hall of Fame, that he's just some injury-prone, weak player or something like that, when Anthony Davis is, to me, a top 35 player of all time. But people don't give him his respect. Everybody gives Steph Curry their respect. I give Steph Curry my respect, even though people think I hate on him. With Anthony Davis, I have to defend him against basically a mob of people who have been propagandized by the media and Neil Rule. That's what it is with me.
And for people that don't know the context, last night I'm watching the game. It was like late at night, and Neil adds me and Sam into a group chat. And let me read this. And he just starts coming for Sam, like anytime, anywhere. What did he say to start off? He texted us the graphic of it says AD had 0 points in the second half, and Neil just says, "Get this bum off Jokic's floor."
And you know what?
And I could hear it, and you know when you you read a text and you can hear it, it's in his voice. I read it out loud like that. That's Neil Rule. And then Sam fired up, sent him back a paragraph, so they were going back and forth. I had to mute that thing. I had to go to bed. I had to go to bed.
As you should have. But the reality of the situation is now people are going to come at me. So now every single time Anthony Davis has a good game, I get to brag in the regular season. That's basically what the rules are now.
No.
Oh, yeah, so it's all, yep. Rules for thee, but not for me. I've dealt with that every single day since I've been at Woodward Sports, and that's fine. I got broad shoulders. I can take it. All I know is I will get the last laugh when Anthony Davis is enshrined in the Hall of Fame with his gold jacket, and I can give every single one of you the fattest, meanest middle finger, and I'm going to love it.
We'll probably laugh because we'll be getting wheeled up there in a wheelchair.
Oh, So, I mean, nobody has that same energy for Joel Embiid or Kyrie Irving or Kawhi Leonard or Kevin Durant, who have also been just as injury prone, if not more, than Anthony Davis throughout their careers.
They might have scored a point in that second half, though.
Oh, in one regular season game. I'm sure we can cherry pick we could cherry pick LeBron James and Michael Jordan for bad halves of NBA basketball. Those are the two best ever.
Well, speaking of, because you talk about AD and the Lakers, of course, took that L last night. I saw this stat floating around Twitter yesterday about Kyle Shanahan, and this thing, I didn't know it was this bad. I mean, we know Kyle Shanahan and how great of a head coach he is, but man, do you have that graphic? Let's see. Like when I saw this, I had to look at it twice. I couldn't believe it, and it was tweeted out by Josh Dubo. I believe that's how you pronounce his name. He says, I'll read it out. Hashtag 49ers fall to 0-36. 0-36 under Kyle Shanahan when trailing by 8+ points in the fourth quarter in regular season or playoffs. Niners have lost 37 straight in that scenario. Only Panthers have a longer streak of 45 straight. Hey, I guess that's the downside of relying on the run game, because when you're up or when you're down, at least, the run game sometimes you just got to bail on it. And if you have a quarterback like Jimmy Garoppolo or Brock Purdy, it's not ideal. So if you don't have a lead, typically that Kyle Shanahan offense, it struggles a little bit.
Yeah, give John Lynch some credit.
John Lynch is getting
more credit, I should say.
John Lynch has delivered that man some All-Pro players, but it just kind of speaks to that philosophy of Kyle Shanahan running the football. It works great when you're in the lead,
sure,
but when you go down and you're down 8 points at least, it's a problem.
I know, but here, like I've always said about the modern 49ers, in particular the Kyle Shanahan era 49ers, there's limitations when your quarterbacks are Jimmy Garoppolo and Brock Purdy. Jimmy Garoppolo, he's not a good quarterback. He is maybe at his absolute apex was the 13th best quarterback in the NFL playing in a perfect system. The same with Brock Purdy. I mean, I thought that Brock Purdy was better than Jimmy Garoppolo has ever been, but in these last 2 games, it's made you question.
No, he still is. He still is.
Wait a minute.
He still
I'm just saying that with these mid quarterbacks, there may be a ceiling to how much you can accomplish because the San Francisco 49ers, and I've said it before and I'll say it again, get way too much credit for being this consummate winning franchise over the past 10 years when I think if they don't cash one in as in a Super Bowl victory with Kyle Shanahan like they couldn't with Jim Harbaugh, that is a disappointment. And the 49ers get this status as like they're this made franchise. Yeah, they were a great franchise when Joe Montana won you 4 and Steve Young won you 1, but they haven't won one since 94, and they seem to always fall short in the biggest games. I know last year it was a fluke circumstance where they didn't have a quarterback, but you can look back to the Super Bowl against the Chiefs. You can look back to the NFC Championship game against the Rams. I mean, there are plenty of examples to where the 49ers, they don't hit their ceiling, and a lot of that to me is because they don't have high-level quarterback play. They have quarterbacks that can look really good in that system.
This comment here, Jake says, I'm a little surprised he's lost 36 games while at the Niners. Is that like every one of his losses? Yeah.
Damn.
That's
Probably,
essentially like
yeah.
the way that
Yeah.
he loses is if he falls down by at least 8, according to the stat, 0-36. So, hey, if you're the Lions, you get up early. And that's all she wrote.
Yes.
You get up early. I know it's easier said than done, but you get up early, and that's all she wrote. That's essentially what that stat's saying. Ryan's reaction says you don't need a high-level quarterback. 49ers are a great franchise regardless of the rings. Yeah, I think Kyle Shanahan, though, he's due. Like, he's such a great head coach, but the one thing he's missing is a Super Bowl ring.
Sure.
And I don't know if Brock... I just don't... I think Brock's good enough to get you potentially through the NFC. I just don't know if it's enough to beat an AFC opponent.
Sure.
He absolutely can.
Okay.
Like with the healthy Niners roster, like Brock Purdy still levels above Jimmy Garoppolo, and if you can't see that, I'm sorry, but just watch the game. I understand he had 2 back-to-back rough games, but that was his first game ever, Jeff, to your point yesterday, where he's throwing more interceptions than touchdowns.
It's crazy.
I don't know if you looked
stat.
at his mobility with the pocket and extending plays, but he's extending plays now. And I'm not saying this guy's going to be an NFL MVP and all this, but Brock Purdy is still a very good quarterback. Yes, he's in the Kyle Shanahan system, but that system has also developed him into a good quarterback regardless. Like, he's still learning, like, and that's not an excuse of like, oh, he should have went out there and won, but he didn't play without Trent Williams and Deebo Samuel. That was the second game in a row he's had to do that on the road and adjust in a tough environment where Kirk Cousins probably played his best game ever, and people are freaking out over. Like, Brock Purdy is still in his second year, and people are just writing him off after 2 games. But this guy is still a very good top 10 quarterback in the NFL. I get he's in the Shanahan system, but if you go back even before these last 2 games, he was making some crazy throws, and even in this game, he showed what he can do with his legs. He's still a good quarterback.
Yeah, I'm not off on Brock, and I think he's better than Jimmy G. I guess my question is, if you do reach a Super Bowl, which you got to go through the Lions and the Eagles, so we'll see how that goes. He almost made it last year. I think he would have made it if he didn't get injured. To be honest with you, I think he would have beat the Eagles. We don't know that. We don't know that, but with the way the 49ers are playing, I think they would have took down the Eagles. But regardless, I just think once you make a Super Bowl and he has to go up against Mahomes, I don't know, man. Like, we'll see. Unless that 49ers defense holds him to 17 points or like 13 points. I just don't know if, especially with that stat, if you're down, you're basically screwed. That's how that works.
I don't think Purdy's a guy that could carry them to a Super Bowl win, but you're talking about if like just the 49ers are 95% healthy, the 49ers by themselves could easily go to the Super Bowl, and you add in a top 10 arguably quarterback, I'm very comfortable with the chances of them winning a Super Bowl game.
Let's go to break. When we come back, we'll talk to Kool-Aid. We'll discuss the matchup tonight. The Detroit Pistons on the road today. They travel to Miami to take on the Miami Heat. The Miami Heat right now are -9 right now. Yeah, sounds about right.
All right.
Sounds about right. We'll have Kool-Aid in. We'll talk about the game. Yeah, damn is right. We'll talk about the game itself. We have some questions. Some guys are out and will be out for a couple of weeks here. We'll get into that. and much more. But first, Sam Flannel, I need a haircut. Where can I go?
You can go to Lady Jane's, of course, just like I go to Lady Jane's to get these great haircuts from those wonderful stylists. Come to Lady Jane's Haircuts for Men for an award-winning haircut experience. Register to win a trip of your dreams and all expenses paid suite for the 2024 NCAA tournament. That's right, no expense spared for you and 5 of your best buds. Lady Jane's Haircuts for Men open 7 days a week. Walk in anytime. It's wicked awesome.
Wicked!
Join Woodward Sports' own Jeff Iafrate, along with special WSN guests for the most anticipated Lions season in decades. Filled with different surprises and expert analysis. You're not going to want to miss out. Go to our Woodward Sports YouTube channel on Sundays and tune in live from 9:30 to 11:30 a.m.
By now you know me, Christina Gennari, as the obvious choice in real estate. And you know my website, soldchristina.com, as your #1 resource for buying or selling your home. Myself, along with my amazing staff, pride ourselves on making your home buying and selling experience a relaxing and easy one. Come see why we are the obvious choice. Christina Gennari at soldchristina.com, the obvious choice in real estate.
Woodward Sports' own Tom Mazaway and Sam Stick Day will be hosting our Lions postgame show after every Lions game all season long. Tune into the Woodward Sports YouTube channel for his hot-off-the-press takes, game analysis, and Kool-Aid sipping celebrations. You won't want to miss it. Join Maz, Stick, and special guests each week immediately following every Lions game, exclusively on the WSN YouTube channel.
Let me tell you about our friends over at 5 Iron Golf, because guys, it's downtown Detroit's newest sports bar. They got 13 TrackMan simulators, certified instructors, and most importantly, a full bar and restaurant. That's at least most importantly to me, because I stink, so I go over to the full bar and restaurant. 5 Iron Leagues are back. Compete nationwide for a chance to win a trip to the Dominican Republic. You bring a foursome or sign up as an individual to be placed on a team at 5irongolf.com. Use code Woodward10 for 30% off the league. That is 5irongolf.com to sign up. Oh, the man, the myth, the legend joining us on this very special day. Brandon Dent, a.k.a. Detroit Kool-Aid, beat writer for Woodward Sports, covers the Detroit Pistons. Wait, hold on. You got a beanie on.
Hey, look, man.
Is this
an homage? It's an homage of Mr. Jeff Iafrate. I heard all of the kind words from the chats last time. I, too, want to be a candle and a soap maker, Jeff.
Yeah, well, just be prepared. They're going to accuse you of writing a scrrapplay. You know, they're going to accuse you of maybe being in a drum club, whatever it is.
Drum club?
Yeah, whatever, dude. Whatever they were throwing at me.
OG Nick Cannon, man.
Yeah. OG Nick Cannon. Well, it's nice to have you, Brandon, man. I'm excited because... And we have the Red Wings. They're 5-1-1. We're seeing success with the Red Wings. The Pistons aren't as far as the Red Wings, but still they're on the right path, as many of us would say. But I want to ask you first, because in recent news, some players that are expected to not be there be available tonight and potentially for their home opener. Bojan Bogdanovic, he's dealing with a calf injury, which at first it was mild, but now it's expected to miss up to 4 weeks. And then you have
Monty Morris.
Monty Morris. Can you speak to some of those injuries and who will be out?
Man, the thing that kind of worries me about those injuries is that all of those players can shoot the three pretty well. And when you're talking about trying to put some type of spacing, not just around Cade, but also for that second unit, that could have some type of effect on how this team starts off the season. But given the starters that we kind of saw throughout preseason, I believe giving those guys extended minutes and mixing in players, if Jaden Ivey's coming off the bench, mixing in players like that, I think that they can overcome a little bit, but they're going to have to shoot it well, starting with Cade Cunningham.
Ooh, nice segue there. So
He's a pro.
I agree with you that the losses that the Pistons are gonna be, the players are gonna be without, the 3-point shooting is what concerns me. Do you think a guy like Cade Cunningham can pick up some of the slack? Because people forget at Oklahoma State he was a 40% 3-point shooter, and with healthy legs, do you think that's something that he can add to his game more?
I do. That's something that he works on a lot. You know, when the parts of practice that we get to see Cade Cunningham from the start of training camp to where he's been as of late, he's not missing any of these threes that he's taken in his in this thing. And the one thing I've noticed about his 3-point shot is that the arc is much better. He talked about it at the exit interviews and then at media day as well. He said coming from college to the NBA, for some reason his shot flattened out.
Yeah.
Listen, I like John Beeline. I really do.
Uh-oh.
I love John Beeline. Shout out to Coach B.
But
Easy doesn't like that comment.
But I believe that players like Jaden Ivey, Cade Cunningham, their shots are starting to look a little bit better. Even Killian Hayes to a degree. Asar Thompson even. We didn't know what he was going to be as a three-point shooter coming into the league, but I do believe Cade is going to pick up the slack this year.
yeah, that's a great point about Cade, too. His shot was flat, and now it seems like, man, he can be a close to 40% three-point shooter. We saw that in college. He shot 40%.
Yeah.
There's more there, because we talk about shooting. It's also on Cade as well, and I think he will improve there. My next question, what's your expected Kool-Aid? What's your expected starting lineup? What would you go with? Because the interesting thing, and I'm seeing people talk about it a lot, is kind of spacing out the shooting, no pun intended, but trying to get shooters on the bench, shooters in the starting lineup. How would you, especially now with Monte out, who's a 40% shooter, close to from three, and then Bojan, who's a walking bucket, 40% shooter from three. How would you, what starting lineup would you roll with tonight?
I think they go with Killian, Cade, Asar, Stu, and Duren. I know that it's not the one that spaces the floor the best, but we did get to see that lineup a couple times, and the defense was just on point. And honestly, as much as I want them to be able to space the floor, I haven't really seen this young team since maybe a little stint of Jeremy Grant play that type of a defense in a long time. And honestly, it was addicting, bro. We saw them kind of keep OKC to like 15 points with about 3 to 4 minutes left in the first quarter. And they were suffocating defense. We saw Asar Thompson getting out into the transition. We saw Killian Hayes getting rebounds. We saw Asar getting rebounds. We saw Cade getting out in transition to the point that even if they were missing some shots, they gave themselves extra opportunities by playing great defense. And that's what Monty Williams has been preaching throughout. That's kind of what I want to see tonight. And I don't want to leave that second unit while they're thin on shooters without shooters. On the bench, you're going to have more like specialty players. In the starting lineup, you're going to have probably your more dynamic players. And off that bench, I don't want Ivy with no driving lanes. That's one thing. I think Cade, he can fend a little bit better. We want spacing around him, but we've seen him be that man without spacing around him.
Right.
Ivy, I want him to have a little bit more spacing around him with Joe Harris on the bench with him, because it's tempting. And potentially Alec Burks. I wouldn't be surprised to see A. Burks start, because I know Monty likes to mix in the vets, but I kind of want them to go with that all-defensive lineup and just rebound, defend, get out in transition, and then let Cade cook.
So what's the ordeal, and what do you think the plan is with Ivy here? Is it more of him having to prove himself to get in that starting lineup, or they just see him as a better fit coming off the bench with his energy, number one, but two, his ability to score quickly? You have some guys coming off the bench like an Ivy, better than a Killian. I mean, he's a better player at this point in time. Is that the reasoning? What's the pathway if Ivy were to get in the starting lineup? How would that work?
When you're talking about this core four of things, you go all the way back to the OKC core four. And we've talked about this for 2 years, 3 years since Troy Weaver was brought on. Is he going to be able to replicate some aspect of that, and is he going to be able to make it work? And to be able to make it work when you have that many guards, sometimes in playmakers and dynamic scorers, one has to, and you would want one to come off the bench. The names that we've heard are names like Ginobili, among others. I think that he does fit best within this core off of the bench right now, and to be able to come in like he's shot out of a cannon and just go to work, because he's a guy who's very, very kind of ISO heavy. He's a guy that can have that type of success. We saw him do it last year when the team was like him, Duren, and like Eugene Omarui and the rest of the Motor City Crews. And he was out there getting up games where I don't even know how he was getting to 10, 11 assists in some of those games in the second half of the season. But he's shown that he's a pretty dynamic player with the ball in his hands. And even in this preseason, the first one, he came right off the bench and just went to work. His job was just attack the basket, keep your head up for the rim, and if you see your teammate open, get him the ball. And that's something that Jaden Ivey is good at. And I do believe that if somebody in that starting lineup is not really playing right or hitting the shots or anything of that nature, he did shoot 34% from three last year. He was 37%, I believe, in catch and shoot threes as well. So it's not like Jaden Ivey is a total miss in that starting lineup if he played. I just think that along with Cade Cunningham and Asar Thompson, I think it takes away a little bit of Jaden Ivey's creative ability to just kind of go and put pressure on the defense.
Yeah, speaking of Jaden Ivey, this is a three-part question. The first couple are quick, and then I want you to elaborate more. So do you think Jaden Ivey is this being off the bench thing? Do you foresee it being a long-term thing or short-term?
Oh, that's the thing. Hey, that's a tough question, man, to answer, because I personally would like to see him start.
Sure.
I really would. But I understand the fit of it all. I understand the dynamic, because if they can make it work, that to me is actually what's best for their team.
I mean, in that vein, do you think Jaden Ivey gets starters minutes regardless?
Yes, I definitely do.
So if that's the case, if Jaden Ivey is long-term coming off the bench and he gets starters minutes, is he the type of guy that can maybe compete for a sixth man of the year, at least during the time that he's coming off the bench?
I do. And you know, the one thing that's interesting, people always say, well, it's not who starts, it's who finishes.
Sure.
But what's the philosophy behind that? I think that Monty Williams is going to take each and every game and all of the practice to see who's defending the best. So if Ivey's going out there and putting in that work on the offensive end of the court and the defensive end of the court, I could see him being the guy that finishes those games. And yeah, I do. I think he's a prime candidate for somebody to be able to win a Sixth Man of the Year award.
All right.
And another thing, too, with the whole Ivy stuff, because you mentioned with Killian starting, which I've seen that floating around as well, does it make more sense that way because Cade's been getting off-ball reps, which would work with a guy like Ivy, but is it because of Asar and his development, him being such a great playmaker, where that kind of like, because you could argue, well, if Cade's playing off ball, then put Ivy in the starting lineup. He could play off of Ivy, but then you have a guy like Asar who's a great playmaker, so you don't really need Ivy at this time. Is that what, like, if Killian were not to start, who's next up? Like, would they put an Alec Burks in there, or would Ivy be next up?
They've been putting Alec Burks in there for fit, though, not necessarily because of who's the better player, the more dynamic player, but just because of fit. They want to be able to have some type of three-point shooter in that lineup if they lose too many guys from that lineup, because now you're not able to put the same type or level of defense out there. So you're going to have to compensate and make up for it in other ways, and one of those ways is trying to shoot the ball. You know, these are great questions because the Pistons have, in my opinion, a good problem when they drafted Asar Thompson, and that's something that on leading up to the draft, Troy Weaver talked about there being this home run pick, and when he got Asar Thompson, he said that was the pick. I wonder what would have happened if he didn't get Asar Thompson, if it was a player that he deemed a little bit lesser down his board. What would have happened? Because those players would have fit that we were looking at the four position, Jarris Walker, Taylor Hendricks, and Ivy's probably still starting today. But Asar Thompson, he's been wowing people. Even the stuff we see him do just on the sidelines, his athleticism, just in shoot-around, his athleticism, just the way he dribbles, he's shifty.
Yeah.
I didn't really see that level of it, even in his overtime elite days. But he's such a dynamic player. And the one thing that's crazy is when you see like Asar, Cade, and Killian standing next to each other, and you realize that 1 through 3, and they're all interchangeable, is a legit 6'5" to 6'7" across the board. And all of them can handle, all of them can play make, and all of them can marginally knock down a three from what we saw in preseason. And
I can't sit here, and even though we talked about what would be a better fit before the draft, like a Jarris Walker, a Taylor Hendricks, I'm not blind to the fact that, you know, you took the best player available, which is the right thing to do when you're not a good team. You took the best player available, and on top of that, he can guard the best offensive player on the other team, which, like, Hendricks ain't doing that. He ain't guarding the best one or two. Yeah, exactly. Like, Asar can do that, so it makes sense. Tonight, though, they travel to Miami to take on the Heat. What are some things you're looking to see? Like, it doesn't have to be, you know, the end-all, be-all, but some things you're keying in on watching the game tonight.
Really, I want to see if Asar Thompson can kind of keep up this I-do-everything role. You know, is he getting his hands into the passing lane? Is he still grabbing rebounds at a high clip, 8, 9, 10 rebounds? Is he defending well? Because Jimmy Butler and some of those guards that they have, some of the wings, it's not necessarily the easiest fit. I know that Miami has some players out. I forgot who's out tonight, but that's going to make it just slightly easier on the Pistons. And I'm looking to see what Cade is going to be like. Notoriously, he starts games, I feel kind of weird saying slow, because he's actually looking for his teammates. So I feel like if his teammates are hitting shots, if the pick and rolls are solid, we wouldn't see this as necessarily him starting slow. And so that's what I'm looking forward to see. If his teammates are going to pick him up tonight, what the defense is looking like, and if Asar Thompson can continue to look like the player that we saw throughout preseason. And obviously Killian Hayes. Yeah. This is a guy who for the last 2 preseasons now, we're like, okay, that's our guy. We see him. He's finally going to live up somewhere, maybe halfway to his 7th round pick. Maybe look like a low 1st round pick at the very least. And last year's preseason, he went from, I think, tied for field goal attempts, either leading or tied for field goals made, and he looked like that player we wanted to see. And as soon as the regular season hit, it fell off a cliff to historically bad lows, like worst player like ever type lows, averaging like more fouls than points and things of that nature. And I remember Dwayne Casey said it was like some switch was flipped off when they had to figure out a way to get it back. The thing that I've noticed this season with Killian Hayes is he has put on a little bit of muscle. He even has a little mustache now. Shout out Lucas. And and the one thing I've noticed, remember we talked about this, that Monty Williams is about playing with force and attacking the basket with force. He wants to put people to the rim. If you look through preseason, Killian Hayes has been doing something we've been screaming for him to do for his entire career. Go to the basket like you're 6'5", bro. You're 6'5".
Yeah.
Like, go to the rack with force, and he's been doing that, playing through contact instead of the little push shot that we used to see him do, the little left-handed one I did with my right hand.
Yeah.
He ain't doing that. But his ability to get to the basket with both hands, play through the physicality and the contact, play off the bumps. We've seen him hit a couple mid-ranges and get assists from inside the paint. He's not shying away from contact. If he keeps that up, I think we'll see a very, very serviceable Killian Hayes, because it doesn't matter if he got 11 and 6 last year. Good, you kind of rebounded. We need consistency. We need toughness. We need your defense, because he hangs his head whenever his offense fails.
No, I think one of the more interesting storylines tonight is definitely the Killian Hayes storyline. Like, I'm interested in that. I'm not interested in Killian,
Yeah, you
though.
are.
I'm not interested in Killian. That thumbnail Ryan made, a little questionable. I don't know if you saw that Kool-Aid, but it was not.
When you're
Shout out to
Killian
the
Hayes'
genius,
biggest fan,
I'm not. What?
You got to show out.
I'm
for
interested in the storyline. I'm not interested in Killian. There's a difference there. All right.
I think the last thing too, one other thing, I'm wondering what they're going to do with Isaiah Stewart. Like, if his shot attempts were for preseason to see what type of player he can be, and if they're going to dial that down back to take the shot if you're completely open and if the situation calls for it. Because in preseason, he wasn't necessarily doing it when the situation called for it. It seemed like he was trying to put those shots up to see what his proficiency actually was, and that's what you do in preseason. I want to see if they kind of dial that back a little bit more and play him more to a traditional role on the offense of a forward, not necessarily a stretch forward, but just kind of dynamic pick and rolls and things of that nature. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, great stuff, Brandon. Man, Wednesdays with Kool-Aid. That's good. Something we're going to start doing every single Wednesday. We got Tuesdays with Matt Broder, Wednesdays with Kool-Aid, and we got Thursdays with the Doc, John Macaroon.
Wow.
We're getting some guys here, the stable parts of this morning show. So I appreciate you, Brandon. You do great work. You'll be down there Saturday as well at the home opener, because I think I'll be down there.
We'll have a lot of people down
Yeah,
there.
Sean and Troy will be down there from half court. We got Lucas and Boone going down there as well. It'll be a lot of fun. So if you're down at LCA, man, come say hey, what's up to us. But where can people find you?
Hey, as always, at Detroit Kool-Aid, and you know what?
Yeah, look at the
Woodward
merch, too.
Pistons.
The merch, man.
Definitely. Shout out to JB. That shirt is so fire, bro. And as always, man, Woodward Sports.
He's like, yeah, I know.
Woodward Sports and WoodwardSports.com, man. This is the mothership. This is the flagship. And we're trying to do great things for not just the city of Detroit, but anybody who loves Detroit sports.
And there you have it, guys. Again, you can catch Kool-Aid, more of him on Woodward Pistons. And if you want to get some of that merch, it's Woodward Sports at the shop. They got Woodward Pistons stuff. You can be like JB and Kool-Aid. Mine is in the wash. I couldn't wear mine today, but I love my shirt as well. I got to get more. I got to get more Woodward Pistons shirts. I do.
It's okay. Your
Let's
face
go
is
to
on the channel.
Oh yeah, of course. All right, we'll go to break. We come back. We'll talk more about the just the Pistons, our expectations for not only tonight, but the season coming up itself. But first, Sam Flannel, could you tell everybody where you can kind of relieve the stress if you watch the Pistons absolutely just get destroyed tonight?
Hey, well, maybe they won't get destroyed. But if they do, you've got to go to Dispo Romeo. Experience Dispo Romeo, a team that curates an exclusive atmosphere, mixed with fresh inventory from Michigan's largest variety of products. The first ever cannabis mall of its kind is conveniently located off of Van Dyke and 32 Mile Road in Romeo. Dispo Romeo is now open late night until midnight every day except Sunday. Can it get any better than that? Dispo Dispensary, DispoShops.com, your local cannabis plug.
And not afterwards, but before you go get your car. You don't want to drive under the influence, but still, you get your car from Les Stanford, then you cruise over to Dispo. That sounds about right. What happens when you run a great business for over 50 years? You expand and offer more products to more people. That's exactly what Les Stanford did. The same great service that customers have come to know and trust on Woodward Avenue, just south of 9 Mile. Check out Les Stanford in Dearborn today. Find the brand you want at LesStanford.com.
Brace yourselves, Detroit. As the sun begins to set, two of Woodward Sports' brightest young stars will be taking the mic for a brand new show. Woodward Nights with Spooner and Broder. The dog days in Detroit are over, and the boys are unleashed. Join in on the banter and hop on the bandwagon of the #1 night show on the internet. Tune into the Woodward Sports YouTube channel every weeknight from 8 to 10 p.m. Woodward Nights with Spooner and Broder.
Where's the most convenient place to get that big fitness energy?
It's Planet Fitness.
Join today for just $1 down, $10 a month. With over 2,400 locations and equipment for every workout, you can get in, get energized, and get going. And with free fitness training and most clubs open 24 hours, everyone belongs in the judgment-free zone. So join today for $1 down, $10 a month, no commitment, cancel anytime. Deal ends Wednesday, September 13th.
Join now at any Metro Detroit location. Hurry, offer ends soon.
Now, coming to Woodward Sports, Woodward and Main Street, the Woodward Sports Network Detroit Lions Show. Let's go! Catch Gabrielle D. Phillips, Matt Broder, and Terry Foster for all the latest news on your Detroit Lions every week. Only on the Woodward Sports Network YouTube channel and woodwardsports.com.
When buying or selling real estate, flexibility and control over the sales process is key. Sellers, how would you like the freedom of canceling your listing agreement at any time for any reason with no penalty? That is exactly what Mark White & Associates offers. It's called the Minute-by-Minute Listing Agreement by Mark White & Associates. Try Mark White's risk-free minute-to-minute listing agreement today. Looking to buy or sell real estate? Visit markwhitesells.com or call 248-290-8242. markwhitesells.com, where flexibility meets success.
Morning Woodward Show, Woodward Sports Network. Music Lover says, someone please explain that thumbnail. I can't explain it, Music Lover. Ryan, who makes the thumbnails, just decided, you know what, I'm going to do Jeff dirty. But dirty in a very very disgusting way. So, hey.
That's a clean edit, though. You can't deny it. That is a clean thumbnail.
The man bats 1,000.
No, I'm not going there. I'm not going to say it's a clean thumbnail with me in it.
It's clean.
No. All right. I want to spend some time here because I want to kind of group it together. We got some Redwings I want to get to, and some Pistons. We just got done talking to Kool-Aid and maybe some of our expectations. At least for me, what I'm expecting to see tonight is similar to what Kool-Aid said. I'm not really expecting a win or loss or anything like that. I mean, the Redwings and what they're doing so far, and just to compare them, it's crazy. The Redwings right now, I know they kind of been flying under the radar because even yesterday, Spencer Raxter was down there. Michael Gentry was down there. They're hanging out with Draper. Come on. I'm Hollywood. These guys are out here just hanging with Drapes, and they got over their D-Mac. They had a great time. Shout out to that. And Spencer's dad, too. So shout out to Danny Raxter. But you know what's crazy? The Red Wings right now are first in the Eastern Conference in point differential. They're plus 14.
Let's go.
They're plus 14. In terms of wins, they're only behind the Boston Bruins. But you look at what they've been doing so far, 11 points on the season. 11 points, which right now would put them third. But 2 is tied between the Boston Bruins and, of course, the Colorado Avalanche. What the Red Wings are doing this year, man, they are a playoff team. You know what helps that? Experience, great goaltending. But he also got on top of that. You got a guy like Alex DeBrincat, who's a walking goal scorer, and right now he just added another goal.
Yeah, so he's scored in every game this year, hasn't he?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's what we're working with. And like I said yesterday, he's not even a top 40 paid player.
Ooh. But right now, if the season ended, he might win the MVP. I'm not saying he can keep that up, but it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, when we checked yesterday, he wasn't even top 40. He was past that. And then Larkin was closer to 40, if not around that number itself. So Alex DeBrincat's been everything. And now people chiming in too. Phil says, God, how can you talk playoffs yet? It's just what I see. Like, this team, to me, is a playoff team. And I even got Michael Gentry to admit it. I mean, that guy's stubborn as hell. And he was like, well...
D-Mac's preaching it, too.
Yep.
And he's been preaching it.
Well, D-Mac's been... He's been consistent because he said playoffs even before the season started. But even Michael Gentry, who's been watching the Red Wings games, he's been down there at LCA, he's now admitting, like, yeah, this is the playoff team. And you look up, I mean, look, the points are everything. And D-Mac talked to us about that too, like 11 points so far in the season. That's what matters. Even in a close loss last night, which they should have won that game. We all acknowledge that. They should have. But regardless, add some more points. Now you got 11.
Yeah.
Which is everything.
I will say this, though, and I don't want to rain on everybody's parade. After the Red Wings came back from 3-1 down and took the lead based off of a killer power play, which they have been dominant at this season, I thought for sure Red Wings got this one. A very good win against a Seattle Kraken team that came in with a losing record. Who knows how good they're going to be. I thought they were going to cash that one in, and they gave up the equalizer and, of course, lost in overtime. You still got a point, but that was one where I'm like, man, when you play these early season home games, especially when you have the prospect of having a lot of tougher games as the season goes on, particularly against teams like Boston and Tampa Bay and the like, you want to cash this one in, and they didn't do it. But they did. That the beauty of hockey is when you lose in overtime, you still get a point. But yeah, I would agree. This is a team to me, and I've been saying it, and I feel like I get some credibility because Darren freaking McCarty is also saying it. It is playoffs or bust. And I think that people need to be, I would say, stoked, not scared when it comes to the Detroit Red Wings. I mean, there were people even before the Alex DeBrincat acquisition that were thinking maybe this is a borderline playoff team, but then they actually acquired Alex DeBrincat, and he's been better so far than even we could have imagined. This is the type of team that you cannot waste. You need to make the playoffs. And at this point, you know how expectations change as new information comes along, especially how well they've been on the power play, how well Larkin's playing, how well DeBrincat's playing. They're a team that could actually, to me, get in the playoffs and actually do something. I do think playoffs is a success no matter what, but I'll tell you what, the playoffs can be very wide open in the NHL. You saw what happened to Boston last year. You saw what happened to, I believe it was the 2019 Tampa Bay Lightning team that lost to Columbus. And you know, if the Red Wings keep winning, they might even get a higher seed. It's 100% playoffs or bust, and I don't quite understand people who say not. I truly believe that one of the motivations for that is because nobody wants to say that Steve Yzerman failed, or not even failed, is kind of slow building this process. I think if it were Steve Johnson, if it were some random GM named Steve Johnson, people would be demanding playoffs or bust, but because it's Stevie Y, it's like, even if it takes him 7 or 8 years, it's like, just trust Stevie Y, the greatest Red Wing player ever.
But you're seeing it come to fruition right now.
Absolutely, and that's my point.
Yeah, and you're right about that. Like Steve O'Baby says, Jeff, Alex and Dylan Larkin are the bread and butter. I mean, you look at right now, point leaders right now in the NHL, top 5, 2 of them have Red Wings on them. Dylan Larkin, number 1, tied with Jack Hughes with 14 points. And then you have DeBrincat with 13. And he's also leading the league in goals with 9, in front of Austin Matthews. I know it's early in the season, but I'm just giving you the stats. That it is what it is. The Red Wings, to me, and I'm glad you brought that up, Sam, because yes, playoffs are a success. That's what we should be judging this team on. But man,
yeah,
this is a good team.
Oh yeah,
and role players. I know you're not a big fan of role players, Sam. That has a lot to do with it as well. They signed the right guys this offseason.
I mean, I like.
Is that fair to say?
No, I like role players. I just don't think they should be more popular than stars, which Darren McCarty is. But that's fine. That's fine. Me and DMAC are friends personally. We just have a little bit of a disagreement on some of his career accolades, but that is neither here nor there. I do think, though, even with the maybe changing of the expectations from just making the playoffs to maybe doing some damage in the playoffs, it's playoffs or bust. So you can't then say. You can't then say that making the playoffs and maybe going down to the first round is not a success. Just make the playoffs this year, and then you're kind of playing with house money, and then next season is where you can start competing for a cup, and then as the years go on, hopefully they can hoist one up within the next 3 to 5 years. I don't think that's outside the realm of possibility. I really don't.
Yeah, and I want to find, and I'll see if I have it, because I want Lucas to put it up if I can grab it. I don't know, because Big D brought it up yesterday. And it was a crazy, crazy statistic. Or not even a statistic, but just a reference point for Dylan Larkin and who he's played with.
Yeah.
Like, when I saw that graphic and who Dylan Larkin's played with, the forwards he's played with, I sat there and just thought to myself, my goodness, how bad it's been. And now he gets out the guy, Alex DeBrincat, his running mate, leading the league in goals. And what does that do for Dylan Larkin? Oh, yeah, leads the league in points.
Yeah, I mean,
tied. Like, it helps Dylan. Having a guy like DeBrincat on your team helps everybody, but it also helps your captain, Dylan Larkin, who just got paid.
Do we say that Dylan Larkin maybe can be a 1C that you could win a cup with? I know it's not ideal, but when you have Alex DeBrincat playing this well...
You give him talent, yes.
At 100%. And when you look at that list, I mean, Justin Abelkader, remember that guy? Like, way past his prime, Henrik Zetterberg. I know there was Andreas Anthony Siu. They even brought up, Tyler Bertuzzi. He was good.
Yeah,
it's some good ones, but it was still just not the most ideal list, I would say.
Yeah,
Anthony Mantha.
I mean, come on.
Yeah.
This is guys. Like, I'm talking to the level of a guy like DeBrincat, who's a capable 30, 40 even goals a year. And people chiming in now on this. Brandon Katz, it's pathetic take to act like making the playoffs is a success for a GM in year 5. Well, Brandon, context matters, man. Like, just saying year 5, I get that. But it's the point I always bring up about Troy, even though it's different situations. But look at what he started with. That's what matters to me. That's why with Troy, people bring that up. I'm like, dude, you have no idea where this team was at one point in time.
Sure.
Like, that's why I don't trust me. Playoffs to me would be a success. And then, like you said, even just making the playoffs, I think this is still a dangerous team once they make the playoffs.
Well, yeah, and
I know it's early, but still, I can see that happening.
And Brandon Katz, I'll actually meet you halfway on this one because I don't think he's as out of line as some people think. I think it's pathetic for the people who say it's not playoffs or bust. But as long as you make it this year, given what Steve Yzerman came into, the cupboard was bare, the books were cooked. I mean, you saw what Ken Holland did to this team during the salary cap era. Well, if Steve Yzerman can turn this team around to a playoff team in year 5, I would say that is a success as long as they make it, as long as they're building towards the future and actually competing for cups. I just don't like the whole, it's not playoffs or bust. It can be like the 8-year plan.
I agree with that. And Mark Royal says, Wings just need a consistent goalie. That's really the cherry on top of this team. It really is. Like, Husso, I like, but he's not someone that consistently you can kind of depend on. There'll be some times where you're watching Husso and you're like, oh, there he goes. And then other times, Husso looks great. So I agree with that comment. More consistent goalie, but we'll see. They got some guys coming up.
They do.
I'm telling you. They got a 6'5" goalie just waiting to... It'll take maybe another year or two, but he's coming.
Hey, and maybe Husso, in a perfect world, is your goaltender too.
Yeah, Kosa.
Wouldn't that be nice? Yeah.
Come on up, Kosa.
All
right, let's go to break. When we come back, we'll get into the Jared Goff conversation because I do have some things I want to share and why I still have faith in Goff. And I'll maybe even Easy's listening. You know, we'll see. I'll try to have a conversation about that in a couple of minutes. But first, we got to hear about our friends over at Guardian Alarm.
Absolutely. Quite the defense in its own right. Let Guardian Alarm offer you customized solutions from real experts. Our professional technicians take the time to recommend security and automation solutions specific to your needs. 24/7 professional monitoring. Call us anytime, day or night, and know that a Guardian team member will stay on the phone as long as needed. Technology backed by people. Your safety and security deserve technology that's been proven to work and people who have been proven to care. Call 1-800-STAY-OUT.
Stay the hell
That's
out.
1-800-STAY-OUT. Guardian Alarm, your local security experts.
Come hang with the Woodward Sports Crew all throughout football season on Saturdays and Sundays. Join our college football and Detroit Lions live watch parties.
Inside the 5, caught, end zone, touchdown, Detroit Lions!
With money on the line. Featuring different special guests and surprises. Start times will vary depending on the game. Only on our Woodward Sports YouTube channel. Woodward Sports' own Tom Mazaway and Sam Stick Day will be hosting our Lions postgame show after every Lions game all season long. Tune into the Woodward Sports YouTube channel for his hot-off-the-press takes, game analysis, and Kool-Aid sipping celebrations. You won't want to miss it. Join Maz, Stick, and special guests each week immediately following every Lions game, exclusively on the WSN YouTube channel.
For over 60 years, Fairway Pack & Go has provided Michigan's finest restaurants, hotels, and restaurants with prime beef. Wagyu beef and dry-aged beef. Experience the Fairway difference for yourself today. Visit the steak shop in Grosse Pointe Woods for grab-and-go steaks, or you can order them online at fairwaypackingco.com. Jared Thomas Goff. You know what comes next, right?
Ryan Gosling-looking motherfucker.
You Ryan Gosling-looking motherfucker. I can't wait to talk about you because it seems like after Sunday, everybody's now just bailing on Jared Goff. Not everybody, but I've seen a lot of that as well. Maybe we shouldn't pay this man. Who is this man? Is he our franchise quarterback? Oh, wow. There's a question, too. Hey, that was quick. I like that. Woodward Sports. Yeah, should Detroit Lions fans still have full confidence in Jared Goff following the matchup with the Baltimore Ravens? Detroit's fan base is noticeably split between the conversation. And that is actually facts. I've seen that as well. And, Sam, I just want to read you some things here.
All right.
And I understand why people, especially Lions fans, because there's a lot of hurt there in history in prior times. I get that. So it's very easy for us, and not just us, but fans in general. I mean, fanatic. The overreaction, okay, I get it. But let me tell you why you shouldn't overreact.
All right.
If I told you, take Jared Goff's name out of it. If I told you player A, this could be your quarterback, Sam. This quarterback is 6th in passing TDs. He's 4th in passing yards, 5th in QBR. He has a better QBR, more passing TDs, and more yards than Herbert, Hurts, Lawrence, and Lamar Jackson. Has a better completion percentage than Hurts, Lawrence, Herbert. And he's 8-5 against the NFC North in his Lions career. Division's important, right? Mm-hmm. He's been the QB of 3 playoff wins and a loss in the Super Bowl. Notice I said he's been the QB. I didn't say he was the... See, now I worded that.
Nice.
You need a playoff win, correct?
Yes.
Well, he's won 3 of them. If I told you can get this guy right now, what would you tell me?
I would say that's our quarterback. I would.
Right. And that's how I think Lions fans should feel, because I think, and this is not just Lions fans, Sam, but this is everybody. I get it. You want the next best thing. I get that. You watch Mahomes. You watch, Josh Allen. You watch all these guys that are dynamic. They got a cannon. They're mobile. I get all that. You watch Lamar, especially on Sunday. You're like, man, we need that guy. We need a guy like that who can escape the pocket, who's elusive, who is just a dynamic player. I understand all that. But it's hard to do that. It's hard to get those guys, right? Like, the Chiefs, it was lightning in a bottle when they got Patrick Mahomes. Nobody knew Patrick would be Patrick today. Same with a guy like Lamar, who fell in the first round. Like, things like this just kind of happen. So, unless Hendon Hooker is Patrick Mahomes, which right now I would say he is not. We do not know anything about Hendon Hooker. Then you have Goff. Like, I've always felt this way. Show me the better option. Like, I'll listen. Like, I'm very open. I'm open-minded. I'll listen. Like, if Easy or anybody else, and I'm just using Easy as an example. I love him. But anybody else that's like, hey, man, I don't know if Goff's the answer. Then give me an option. Give me the option, and I'll listen. As of right now, there's nobody I would rather want than Goff. There's about half the teams in the league that would take Goff right now.
Well, yeah, probably half.
So, so let's not act like he's some bum. That's where I think people get out of hand, is when you get to watch all these toys and these guys like Patrick Mahomes and all these guys. You're like, man, we got to get one of those guys. Dude, you have a quarterback, and I just read it. He's top 6 in passing TDs, top 4 in passing yards, 5th in QBR. Better QBR than other great quarterbacks at this point in time, which is facts. I'm not saying that he's way above these guys, but better QBR, like I said, than Herbert, Hurts, Lawrence, and Lamar Jackson. So for people that are panicking, relax. You have a quarterback that can win you a playoff game and win you a division. He's 8-5 in the NFC North in his Lions career. 8-5. 8-5. Like, that's big time. So I don't understand the overreaction, Sam. I get people want bigger and better things, but at this point in time, trust me, it's not, the grass isn't always greener. That's what I'm worried about when people get like this. When they say, well, just go to Hendon Hooker, and then you get the rookie contract, and then everything's all good. Well, what if Hendon Hooker isn't what you thought he was? Now you're in trouble. Now you don't have a franchise quarterback at all. And now you're back to square one, finding a Jared Goff or finding someone who could be better than Jared Goff. Guys, the whole plan for the Lions should be you keep Goff, you extend Goff. He's your quarterback until another option presents itself, which I don't think it'll be this year. You're going to be picking, what, in the 20s?
Yeah, that's what.
Like, where are you getting a guy? Unless a Lamar Jackson who won a Heisman falls to you. It typically does not happen. So the overreaction, I get it, being fans, but it's ridiculous, Sam Flannel, that people after one game want to just kick Jared Goff to the side and just let's just go get somebody else, or let's just roll with Hendon Hooker next year. Let's do that, even though we have no idea what he is at this point in time.
So Jeff, I agree with you to an extent, and to the shock of absolutely no one, you gave some great numbers at the beginning, and I was actually going to give those exact same numbers as well, because
Stole your thunder.
No,
my bad.
No, actually, Jeff, you did not steal my thunder. You actually made my job easier because I don't have to regurgitate them again. But the point is that in every major statistical passing category, Jared Goff is top 10, and a couple of them he's top 5. That cannot be overstated. That cannot be overlooked 100%. But I also will say this. I don't have a problem if you have some questions about Jared Goff being your $45 to $50 million man after that game, because it was very, very humbling. And I feel like to some, Jared Goff has kind of skated off scot-free. I know the defense was bad. I know they basically gave the Lions no shot, but after the Ravens kept scoring, the Lions would go 3 and out, or they'd get a first down and then they'd punt. The offense didn't do them any favors, and Jared Goff, that game, and I'm not saying throw him in the trash, I'm not saying get rid of him, it did expose some of his limitations, and at some point you might have to go to Philadelphia in the playoffs or an environment like that. He wasn't able to extend plays. It seemed like once the pocket collapsed and once guys like Matabuke or the like would get near him, he would just get sacked. And if it were even Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson on the other side, like you saw Lamar Jackson do, they are more able to extend plays. And also, that arm strength in the wind, a lot of those throws, it looks like they were kind of going straight into the dirt. A lot of those throws, like opposite hash throws to the sideline, were going straight into the dirt. And I don't necessarily like that. And I'm not saying that Jared Goff can't make those throws or that Jared Goff can't make those throws in perfect weather or in a dome. But in outdoor situations like that, I think Jared Goff's weaknesses and limitations were a bit exposed. Does that mean that the Lions won't win with them? No. Does that mean that they're not going to win a playoff game? Does it mean that most of their games are going to be in perfect condition because they play in a dome, or they go to New Orleans, or they go to Dallas, a couple of other dome teams? But still, I don't like how he's skating off the hook. I know people are maybe rushing to condemn him too much, but then there's people that defend him. Probably they like to kind of balance it out a little bit, and that's what has bothered me a bit, because he led the team to 6 points. If this was, just remember, guys, and I know a lot of people aren't going to like this, but I just have to say it. Remember when Matthew Stafford was your quarterback, and just listen. He was criticized a lot for losing those games, I don't know, 34 to 28 when the score was at one point like 34 to 14. He stat padded a couple of garbage time touchdowns. He was called Stat Padford. He was getting a lot of hate for that. And Jared Goff is almost getting like, it's fine, just absolved completely of a game in which he led his offense to 6 points.
Can I explain the difference in why?
I would love to hear it, because I'm going to debunk it.
What's the difference in the difference is people don't give Jared Goff shit for that, because what's Jared Goff's record in the last 16 games?
Okay, but
I'm explaining why. And I'm not saying that Matthew Stafford had the most set up for success, but people look at Matthew Stafford's stats and be like, top 5 quarterback, top 5 quarterback, top 5, and it would make my head explode, because you have a top 5 quarterback with a top 3 wide receiver, and even for many years he had at least a solid defense. You can win regular season games like that. You don't have to win playoff games, because then organization matters and all that matters, but regular season games, and I can't count the amount of times that the games that the Lions should have won because they had the more talented team and they had a top 5 quarterback, top 10 quarterback. People were calling Matthew Stafford an MVP candidate in Detroit, and it would be like, all right, let's relax. The guy's talented, but it takes more than talent just to win a football game. That's why guys like Jared Goff, they're not the most talented, but they know their roles. Matthew Stafford, a lot of the time, he would try to play hero ball when he didn't need to, and he'd run himself into trouble. That's what would make my head explode. First 5 years of Matthew Stafford, did not mind him whatsoever, because he's on a rookie deal. You start doing that off of a rookie deal and not knowing your role, that's when I get upset. When he goes to LA, he knew his role, because he just had to play pitch and catch with Cooper Kupp, and he could show that talent with the receivers that he had. But he just did not know his role in Detroit, I feel like, and that's what drove me nuts.
Yeah, but just to respond to your thing about Jared Goff's limitations, and trust me, coming out of the draft, I loved Hendon Hooker. I thought that, that was a ballsy move by Brad. You take a quarterback that has a lot of upside, but you just don't really know what you have in him, and maybe you stash him, and if things don't go well negotiating with Jared, you got someone at least in-house. But let's be real here. We knew what Jared Goff's limitations were. I know he needs a run game. I know he needs protection. I know, ideally, you need a receiver like an Amon-Ra St. Brown who can consistently catch the football, except for Sunday. He was dropping some. But regardless, when people come out after the game, Lucas, and they're like, see, he has limitations. I knew that. That's why he has a top offensive line.
Oh my God! Just excuse everything.
No,
nothing's his fault. Nothing's his fault.
But that's what the point I'm making is. People, did you think he was Mahomes? I didn't. No. I didn't think he was mobile. I never thought he was mobile. So I know his limitations. That's why when we talk about the loss on Sunday, I'm like, it's on Goff for playing bad, but at the same time, dude was pressured every single snap. He's not mobile. He's not Lamar. He's not Mahomes. He can't run out of the pocket and make a play and extend a play. but that's who Goff is. What I'm saying, though, is the grass isn't always greener. For people that are quick to replace Goff, you could talk about his limitations. Okay, fair. He's still top 6, top 4 in other stats. Like, he's still good enough to win a playoff game. And this is the whole goal of this thing, is it not?
Yes, and I agree with you to a lot of that, but I also reject right now, it could change, this whole idea that Jared Goff is this consummate winner in Detroit. Yes, in a 16, 17 game stretch, that record looks pretty good, but unfortunately it came after a 1-6 start last year. And this year, even though we almost know that the Lions will at least make the playoffs, Jared Goff has not won anything in significance of Detroit yet. Jared Goff has not won anything that Matthew Stafford didn't win yet. Do we think he will? Do we think he will?
Matthew Stafford won nothing in
I know, but neither has Jared Goff. That's my point.
I confidently, I'm throwing money. I'm confident. I'll put my money where my mouth is that the Lions will win a playoff game. I'm not saying that Jared Goff is more talented than Matthew Stafford, but to act like Jared Goff is the sole reason, and I'm not saying you're doing this, Flannel, because it's, again, you've criticized the defense, you criticized the offensive line, you criticized the run game. But to people that are acting like Jared Goff just showed up and took a shit out of nowhere, it's like, what do you expect to happen when a quarterback has a defense that's not putting up points? When he doesn't have an offensive line protecting? When his wide receiver 1, who's a very consistent guy, he's still at 13 catches, is dropping crucial catches in the first quarter of the game? When he has his RB1 that he needs, to your point, Flannel, like he needs an RB1, is out. It's like everybody got exposed, including Jared Goff. That's why I'm not really piling on Jared Goff right now, because you can pile on the whole football team. Let's say the Detroit Lions held the Ravens to 21 points and Jared Goff put up 6 points. That's when it's like, okay, what's going on here? But it was just a complete team loss. That's why it's like I'm not looking too much into it, because one, it's nothing that you wouldn't expect if the team would fail. Like if the team fails, that's how I expect Jared Goff to look.
Yeah, and Sam, I agree with, people maybe having some questions regarding, like one game, of course people are going to have their opinion. My point though is it's ridiculous coming off the Bucs game when he had no run game in the second half and he threw you to victory.
He did.
And then this prior game, everything melts down completely. It was a complete team loss, and somehow Goff's the biggest conversation out of that.
6 points, though. He has to be part of the conversation.
You're right. No, and
he is a part.
Yes.
He is a part. But the only takeaway I've been seeing for the most part, a little bit of Aaron Glenn, but most of it was like, is Jared Goff the guy? That was the biggest takeaway I've seen. It's like, how can Jared Goff be your only takeaway in a complete domination on both sides of the ball in all areas? Offensive line, the run game, everything. I mean, Jahmyr Gibbs got a lot of yards late in the game, but early on, like they didn't get a first down until like I think late in the first quarter. I know. I wonder who could have done something about that, though. That's all I'm saying.
No, but the offensive line included. Ben Johnson included.
I know.
Yeah, that's.
I say from a coaching perspective on Sunday, like the Lions coaches, they didn't even do their jobs really.
Agreed.
Like they could have done better.
Agreed.
And when you just like, Jared Goff does deserve some responsibility for that loss, but I don't think it's like a Detroit Lions 40%, Jared Goff 60% type of thing. Like I don't think that's fair either. Like you can't expect a quarterback to go out there when his receivers, linemen, and running backs just don't show up. And then the defense on the other side, so it's like even when he can't get anything going, they're not stopping a thing. Like he was just uncomfortable that whole game. That's what uncomfortable quarterbacks look like.
Sure. I mean, it
happens to everybody. Josh Allen against the Jets.
I know, and Josh Allen got ripped to shreds. I know he threw 3 interceptions and turned the ball
against
over.
the Jets.
Yes, but if, like I said, if it were another quarterback, I feel like people would be ripping this guy. If we heard as Lions fans, and I said this yesterday, that Dak Prescott or Kirk Cousins led their offense to 6 points in a loss, we would be cackling, key, saying that they're not big game quarterbacks, but because it's Jared Goff, and I get there's context. There was a total team loss, but because it was Jared Goff, it's like this rush to like, we cannot say anything bad about our Lord and Savior, the Father and the Son, and Jesus Goff. That's who we worship to.
No one's saying that. I think it's fair to criticize Goff.
Okay.
But my point is, like, people are so quick, like with a guy that's putting up the numbers he's putting up and being a reason you're winning some of these football games, to just be like, yeah, we need better after one loss, a complete team meltdown. Like that's my problem, Sam. Like I get, if you have an argument why you don't want to pay him, I'll listen. And if you have another option, I'll listen. But my question to you, Sam, not you directly, but people like that, who's the option?
Well, we have
Talk to me.
Well, we have to see how Jared Goff responds to that, and that's 100% fair. That's why I'm saying it's not time for me to throw him in the trash. It's just if they make the playoffs, which they will, if they continue to win big in the regular season, a lot of their games indoors, by the way, which I think they will, but they go to Philadelphia in the playoffs and lay an egg and Jared Goff plays terrible, I think there's legitimate questions of, is there a ceiling with this Detroit Lions team with Jared Goff? That's all. And I don't think that's unfair at this point because Jared Goff, despite what a lot of people think, has not won anything in Detroit yet. Will he? Way more likely yes than not. But I want us to pump the brakes a little bit.
Mike Bell, you all swore this week wouldn't be a sky falling type of week, regardless of the outcome, but here we are.
But they lost
There's
38-6 though.
Even though we're defending Goff, we're all just there you go. Love you, Mike Bell, but. No.
2 years,
Mike
one
Bell,
mouth.
Jeff, this loss falls squarely on the coach's shoulders. Stop the JG narrative. You all keep ignoring. You all keep ignorant narrative going by fanning the flames. I think he's talking about. I think he's talking about Sam because we're over here defending Goff. Like again,
I literally just brought up how the coaching staff did not show up.
yeah, but he didn't hear
Offensively.
that. He just
No.
assumes you're trashing Goff.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
Okay.
Even though we just defended Goff, but regardless, Benji. Chiming in, my guy says, I trust Jared as long as he has that O-line. I know what he is, and his game has never changed. Keep him clean, give him a good pocket, he'll be fine. He's bad under pressure. And that's what I mean, Sam, when I say, like, I know what Goff is. It's not an insult to Goff. Like, you know what his strengths and weaknesses are. And the Lions have been pretty good job. Like, that's why they drafted Penei Sewell.
Sure,
They grabbed Penei, and, of course, they put this O-line together. It's one of the best in the league. They got David Montgomery. They had a good run game. Like, that's why they do this. It's not because Goff's this horrible quarterback. They just know his strengths and weaknesses. And unfortunately, on Sunday, nothing went well for anybody.
Yeah.
And Goff did not benefit from that.
No.
I just don't like, the reason why I'm bringing this up, Sam, I just don't like the people who are quick to be like, I don't want to pick off. Let's move on. My question is always, okay, give me the game plan. Where are we going with this? You're going to be a good football team this year. You're not drafting a quarterback unless you take another Hendon Hooker. You take one in the late first or maybe the second or third round, whatever. But I don't think you should do that. And we don't know what Hendon Hooker is. Are you going to go sign somebody? Like, I just want to know what the plan is if you want to replace Goff. That's all I'm saying.
No, and I understand that. I don't think it's as simple as you want to extend him to $50 million a year today, or you want to throw him in the trash. It's just, if you have more questions after this game than after the Tampa Bay game, I think that is 100% fair. And these aren't questions that will definitively end in no, by the way. These are, Jared Goff can answer a lot of these questions if he leads this team to 12, 13 wins, puts up the same numbers he did last year. That's also fair. He's got to respond, and I think he will, by the way.
Big Daddy Buttman, very respected member of the program. He chimed in. Is a car worth $50 million if I can only drive it in perfect conditions?
Ooh. Hey, that's not out of line.
Hey, what I would respond to that is,
it
is if you're living in Florida. How about that? If you're in a state where it's nice a lot of the time, then I think so. So if you're in a situation like Detroit where I think it'll be an ideal situation majority of the time, then I do.
I mean, you got home games at New Orleans, at Los Angeles, at Dallas. I mean, we're talking about weather conditions at Minnesota. It's just at Chicago, and then if they have to play at Philly in the playoffs, I understand that. Maybe they can avoid it all.
Yeah.
Maybe they can.
And the reason why also Big Daddy Buttman, I'm just talking to him again. If you are hesitant, I understand that. If you want to wait till the end of the season, okay, fair. My problem is people are so quick to be in you, Lucas, you kind of feel this way too. It's like bigger and better things, but they don't have a plan to get the bigger and better things.
And especially when Kyler Murray's making $46.1 million, I think I'm okay with giving Jared Goff that money. When Russell Wilson's making $48.5 million, I'm okay with making that because both of those contracts are backloaded as well. You sign Jared Goff to a 2-3 year, $135 million deal. You are sitting in prime condition to move right off him too if he takes his shit. You know who you still have? Hendon Hooker. You know what you can still do? Draft young talent, trade for veteran talent. You can still do all of these things. And you have a quarterback that can keep you in contention mode. To act like you can just go from Jared Goff to Hendon Hooker and be in the exact same spot. I'm sorry, how many years have Jared Goff been in the league for?
Since 2016.
Okay. How many snaps has Hendon Hooker played?
0.
Why do people just act like that doesn't matter? That is what drives me nuts. It's like, oh yeah, Hendon Hooker, throw him in. Never played an NFL snap. The Lions will be just fine. No, you have to build chemistry with that whole team. How many reps do you think Hendon Hooker took with the first team offense? I can guarantee you fucking zero.
Yeah, zero.
Zero. And then you're going to go, yeah, we're going to send him with zero chemistry in year one of being a 28-29, and I do not hate Hendon Hooker, but we're going to send him into Philadelphia because he's played in big games before. We're going to send him into San Francisco because he's been in get those big games before. And while that is happening during that time, who's getting more years off their contract? So now you still have to pay people. So you want to do this whole just move off to Jared Goff, the Hendon Hooker, like, critically think about it. The only time that these have worked are with the one-off situations, the Tom Brady, the Patrick Mahomes, the Drew Breeses. Like, this just does not happen. It does not happen where you just move off a quarterback, go to another one, and you're just instant success. That does not happen in the NFL.
And to use Brock Purdy as an example, like, he's talk about lightning in a bottle. That, like, Brock Purdy, I know Kyle Shanahan does a lot for him, but to have a guy like that, the last pick in the draft, that is having the success he's having, it doesn't happen. Like, it just doesn't. So unless you go find me another Brock Purdy, it's not happening. So that's why we want to bring this conversation up, to kind of, remind fans that you're okay. Like, Jared Goff, is he the guy who will retire a Lion? I don't know. But guess what? He's the best option you have right now. And he's an option that can win you a playoff game and have some playoff success. That's all I'm saying, with how the team's currently constructed. We'll talk about all that stuff later, but I do think with Hooker not playing any snaps, it's a little ridiculous to say Hendon's the future right now, even though I like Hendon. It's just ridiculous. All right, let's go to break. When we come back, we'll bring up Stephen A. Smith. Had some comments on the Detroit Lions that were just out of pocket. Speaking of quarterbacks, that was out of pocket, what Stephen A. Smith said. We'll bring that up in a couple of minutes. But first, I got to tell you about our friends over at Big Boy. Burgers and chicken sandwiches are taking over at Big Boy. Try the best cheeseburgers or their new pretzel bacon cheeseburger. They got chicken. They got fries. You want to upgrade them too? That's fair. They got dessert as well. Indulge in Big Boy's Reese's chocolate peanut butter thunder cake, or satisfy your sweet tooth with Big Boy's funnel cake fries.
At work and at home, we're there with smarter security solutions, featuring complete automation with customized alerts and more. For over 90 years, we've been the company that's been counted on to protect what matters most, all with personalized service and care. Right now, for a limited time, receive a free video device plus free installation with a new home system. Guardian Alarm. We protect Michigan.
Join Woodward Sports' own Jeff Iafrate, along with special WSN guests, for the most anticipated Lions season in decades. Filled with different surprises and expert analysis. You're not going to want to miss out. Go to our Woodward Sports YouTube channel on Sundays and tune in live from 9:30 to 11:30 a.m. Brace yourselves, Detroit. As the sun begins to set, two of Woodward Sports' brightest young stars will be taking the mic for a brand new show. Woodward Nights with Spooner and Broder. The dog days in Detroit are over, and the boys are unleashed. Join in on the banter and hop on the bandwagon of the #1 night show on the internet. Tune into the Woodward Sports YouTube channel every weeknight from 8 to 10 p.m. Woodward Nights with Spooner and Broder.
Let's talk about Outdoor Equipment Co., official equipment provider of Woodward Sports. Michigan-grown, family-owned. Bad boy mowers, tractors, steel handhelds, and even weed whippers. Liberty trailers, Generac generators, Snow X plows, and salters. Outdoor Equipment Company has it all. Buy it, rent it at 0% financing. Delivery to your doorstep. All you got to do, visit their website, outdoorequipco.com.
It's fraudulence. You see, when you're looking for the definition of fraudulence, that's what the damn Detroit Lions showed you today. You got a top 4 offense. You got a top 9 defense. You got Jared Goff, who was an MVP candidate. They were 13-3 since week 9 of last season. You're looking at the Detroit Lions and you're saying, excuse me, even on my A-list on First Take, on ESPN's First Take last week, I had them as number 1 team in the NFL. Damn it, I'm stuttering, tripping over myself because it came out of my mouth to be complimentary of a franchise that's perpetually disgusting. 1 playoff victory since 1957. Ladies and gentlemen, that's 10 years before I was born. That was so damn long ago, I don't remember who the hell the president was. Dwight Eisenhower. And to get your ass kicked so thoroughly, so embarrassingly, so profoundly. What happened to biting kneecaps, Dan Campbell? The Lions reminded us that they're just another team.
Stay off the weed, Stephen A. Smith. Man couldn't even finish the sentence, by the way. And he's funny. I mean, this is all for clicks. I mean, there's no way that after one loss, he says all that about the Detroit Lions, but then a week prior ranks them as #1 proudly and confidently. Stay off the weed. Stay off the dispo weed, Stephen A. Smith. People chiming in. Mark Royal says Steven is right. Corey Berry says Stephen A. proving the point that his hot air drifts with the wind. Detroit Dabber 313 says that's not weed, Jeff. Steve-O Baby Jeff, he is not lying, though. This is the only team that hasn't won a playoff game. Yeah, but, like, that is just lazy to me to bring that up. Like, after a loss, he had him. Look at the graphic. He had him ranked as the number one team. Little overreactive. There are not frauds. I get why you'd second guess and be like, you know what? They just lost to a pretty good team. But come on. To say they're frauds, that's a little extreme, Sam. I don't know if you're there yet, but I'm not there.
Okay, so I've got a lot to say about this. First off, and I want to be very, very clear about this, I do not think the Detroit Lions are frauds. I think this is a damn good football team. I mean, you look at what they have. They're top 10 in points per game, and they're second in rushing yards allowed per game, even after that loss. Even after that ass kicking that they received by the Baltimore Ravens. The Lions have objectively a top 10 quarterback, a top 5 offensive line, and that might be shortchanging them a little bit, a Pro Bowl caliber edge rusher in Aiden Hutchinson, and at his best, I think he can eventually mold into a Defensive Player of the Year candidate. They have a top 10 wide receiver in Amon-Ra St. Brown, who's 5th in receptions and 8th in receiving yards, and the Lions, we would all agree, have one of the best GMs in the NFL, at least when it comes to the draft. And that is all well and good. But after you take a beating like that on the road at a contending team, I don't think we as Lions fans have the right to pearl clutch over a national media member calling the Lions frauds. Because here's the reality, and a lot of people aren't going to like this, but I just have to repeat it anyway because it's all true. The Detroit Lions, the previous 4 games, they dominated, won all of those games by 10-plus points. The quarterbacks they faced, Desmond Ridder, Jordan Love, Bryce Young, and Baker Mayfield. And I get it. When you face bad quarterbacks like that, when you face teams that aren't on the Lions level, you got to destroy them. That defense allowed only 14 points per game in that stretch. And in the 2 games where they allowed 20-plus, they had a 27-3 lead at halftime against Green Bay and a 35-10 fourth quarter lead against Carolina, which basically means that Green Bay and Carolina scoring those 20 and 24 points were fugazi because it was all in basically garbage time. So that's all well and good. But also, in the 2 games in which the Lions lost, I have to say this too because it's also telling the story of the season. They gave up to Geno Smith, his season high in completion percentage in a game, tied for his season high in touchdown passes in a game, his highest passer rating this year, his highest yards this season, and the Seahawks tied their season high for points scored, and I almost forgot, Geno Smith had his highest QBR this season and tied his season high in rushing yards. And against Lamar Jackson, we all know how the Lions defense looked against Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson set his season high in touchdown passes, passer rating, QBR, yards, and the Ravens had their season high in points. Lamar Jackson, when you look back at his history in the NFL, may have just had his best game, statistically speaking, against the Detroit Lions. And when you actually watched him play, he was absolutely unstoppable. So all of that kind of goes into the whole stew that is this season. And you want to talk about the Kansas City Chiefs. I want to talk about that as well. That was a very, very impressive win, and I'm not going to deny that. But it did help them that Travis Kelce and Chris Jones were out. So I don't think the Lions are frauds, but if a national media member wants to say that, and the fact that he wants to bump them so down during the rankings, that's what happens when you get blown out. It's not a conspiracy. The Lions played their worst game they've played this season by far, and you're going to get crapped on for that. You just are. You got to just embrace it.
Yeah, but this is my concern. Like, I get that, and it was not a great game on Sunday. I'm not going to defend it one bit. But if we're going to call them frauds, are the Dolphins frauds?
Well, okay. So let me.
No, I'm just asking.
No, let me respond to that really quick.
Okay.
Because that is fair. The Dolphins, they did take an ass whooping at Philadelphia and an even worse ass whooping at Buffalo. And
are they frauds?
You could say that. You could say that against better defenses, and especially at environments like Buffalo.
Are they frauds? Yes or no?
See, I don't think the Lions are frauds.
But here, let me explain this. Okay. Because if we're going to be consistent, the Miami Dolphins have beaten Justin Herbert on the home opener.
Yes.
On the road opener for the Dolphins. They beat Justin Herbert. Then they faced Mac Jones, Russell Wilson, lost to Josh Allen, beat I think it was Daniel Jones at the time, and Bryce Young. So we're bringing up quarterbacks. Haven't faced any good quarterbacks. The two they faced, Allen and Hurts, they lost to. Let's go to Philly. Who'd they face? Except for last week, and they took care of the Dolphins. It was a good win. But before that, they lost to Zach Wilson. They beat Matthew Stafford. They beat Sam Howell. They beat Baker Mayfield. They beat Kirk Cousins, and they beat Mac Jones.
Okay.
Let's go on to the 49ers, and they're a great football team. Let's go through their schedule. They beat Kenny Pickett. They beat Matthew Stafford. They beat Daniel Jones. They beat Josh Dobbs. They beat Dak Prescott, and they lost to P.J. Walker and Kirk Cousins.
All right.
So we're going to bring up quarterbacks. We'll go all around. Are they all frauds, or what are we doing?
Let me actually respond to that, because that's actually a solid point. I will give you that, Jeff Iafrate. A lot of teams, their jobs is to feast on the bottom feeders. When you play them, you got to beat them.
So that's why I hate. It's not you. I just hate when people say who they face. Dude, go around the other teams and who they faced.
Okay, but
that's ridiculous.
Like I said, though, when the Lions had a chance to really make a statement at Baltimore, they fell on their face. And here's the thing too. And man, oh man, because Lions fans can never just be objective, but I have to bring objectivity to the table. I just have to. Every single Lions fan in the universe would call the Dallas Cowboys the most fraudulent team ever after they took an ass whooping at San Francisco. The same kind of ass whooping that the Lions took at Baltimore. People here are calling the Eagles frauds for games that they actually won. For games that they actually didn't win as impressively. The Kansas City Chiefs are being called frauds by people in the chat, people in this room, by beating a team by double digits. And now us Lions fans want to pearl clutch over something Stephen A. Smith has to say. That's what drives me crazy. Just be consistent. It's okay. The Lions are not frauds. I don't believe that at all. But Stephen A. Smith was not out of line. He has an opinion. That's it.
No, yeah. Listen, in the correct thing, Lucas, he has an opinion, but his opinion's wrong. Like, they're not frauds.
They're not frauds. I agree.
That's why I'm saying it's wrong. Because if we're going to call the Lions frauds, you got to keep that same energy, Lucas. I just went through the quarterbacks and who the 49ers, the Eagles, and the Dolphins have faced. Are we going to be consistent?
I could say...
Where's Stephen A. Smith talking about those teams?
I could say a lot, but to put Saturday or Sunday's game into a nutshell, I won't even say anything. I'll let one RG3 say what I have to say about this.
The Ravens team that we saw on Sunday, they beat every team in the NFL. Listen to what they did to the Lions. Right? The Lions are a top-level NFC team. Right? We've been raving about what they've been doing with Jared Goff. The Lions defense hadn't given up 100 yards rushing in a game all year long, and the Ravens put up 100 yards on them in the first half.
Yes, sir.
All right, so now I was talking about how the guys around Lamar needed to step up and be more, and they did exactly that. I mean, he had the most yak yardage ever in his career, 196 yards of it. I think he threw for 223 yards off of 11 play-action passes. So normally we've seen this offense be generated through Lamar and his running ability, and he's showing you now that he can be that elite passer because he's always been that way. He just needed a coach that was going to believe in him. Anyone hating on him now, they're just being green for that.
So my point being is just like, if you want to call the Lions frauds after this, I can understand it to Flannel's point. I can understand it. Now, I don't agree with it. But if you just want to look at it at the scoreboard, go ahead. But I think we can all agree that was the Detroit Lions' worst game of the year. That was the Baltimore Ravens' probably best game in the last 4 or 5 seasons, just period.
Yep.
So when you add that, yeah, they're going to look like frauds. But I don't want to hear anything. When the Lions go on Monday night and they beat the fuck out of the Raiders, they go on a bye, they travel to LA, they beat the fuck out of Justin Herbert and the Los Angeles Chargers. I don't want to hear anything. This isn't a shot at you, Flannel. It's possible for the Lions to be a very good team and not be quite locked as Super Bowl contenders. If you want to call them fraudulent Super Bowl contenders, I'm not going to hold you to it. I'm not going to be mad at you just because this team's goal at the beginning of the season was to win a playoff game, possibly 2. And they are still right on that track. No one in their right minds outside of Detroit thought the Lions were a Super Bowl contender. That they looked really good through the first 6 weeks, then people started building the hype. The Lions are still on the same track that they were before, so to call them frauds just because you want to put them number 1 on your power rankings and look like the fresh thing of the week, Stephen A. Smith, you're the bigger fraud for calling this whole organization fraudulent, bringing up the whole past when it's not the organization's past, it's the organization's future that we're in right now. And it's just complete just drifting with the wind. You can say 2 things. You could say, the Lions are still a good football team, but they're not a Super Bowl contender. To call them just flat-out frauds, I think is ignorant.
This one, Benjamin Johnson. I avoided Monday and Tuesday on Woodward, hoping to avoid the hot take shit, but here we are. What hot take? We're defending the fraud statement. Okay, I love people, man. Sometimes they just...
Some of the chat is on.
Yeah.
The chat, like, I was reading it for a little bit, then I'm like, Jesus,
I
people
know.
are
Benjamin,
just...
I suggest just listening, man. We're defending the Lions, but continue. So, Sam, you're not saying they're frauds.
No, I don't think they're frauds.
And I'm not saying you are, but you're talking that it's fair for Stephen A. or others to have that type of opinion. I say it's not, because they are not frauds. Because if you're going to call the Lions frauds, then you got to call some other teams frauds. If we're going to go around, and by the way, I don't think any of these teams are frauds. I think the 49ers, the Eagles, the Dolphins, the Lions, they're all good football teams. They're not frauds.
Okay. All right, and that's fine. But either if none of them are frauds, then that's 100% okay. But you got to admit, guys, it is universally accepted that the Dallas Cowboys are just, oh my God, frauds. People laugh at them. They took an ass whooping at San Francisco, the same that the Lions did at Baltimore. Maybe the San Francisco 49ers on that given day, nobody in the NFL could beat them. I know that we're using this RG3 statement as like, aha, you see, maybe the Ravens just played the best game ever and the Lions loss wasn't that bad. But
no, I'm not.
Okay.
I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is just like, the Lions got exposed, and everybody's calling them frauds off of a terrible game. It's a terrible game that they looked terrible, and Baltimore had their best game in years. It's something in the middle. Like, there was a huge dramatic change. We can't just act like that's the Lions team. I'm not saying you are, but people are now acting like the Lions are just going to like whittle out and probably be a wild card team or be the NFC North and get bounced out in the first round. Like, that's not what this Lions team is. Flannel, to your point, I do agree they're on that Cowboys tier of like, yeah, they could go to the Super Bowl if everything wins right, but right now I wouldn't put a lock. But then I think inside that tier, there's levels to it. Sure. And I think the Cowboys are here, Lions are here, and then you still have that upper tier, that upper echelon tier in the NFC, where it's the Eagles and Niners, and those are the people right now that are like, yeah, I don't, especially after the Bayard trade, I don't think you can call either of those team frauds. I don't agree all the way, but I can understand why people would say the Lions are Super Bowl frauds. But to call them frauds off of what their goal was in the season, I don't think is correct.
Let's go to break. When we come back, we'll bring up some of the trade rumors, not by credible sources, but just to have a conversation on who's available, maybe what the Lions can do as the trade deadline approaches. We'll do all that and more. But first, Sam Flannel, could you tell me about our friends over at Swiss Insurance?
Of course. Do you have football on the brain? Fall ushers in college and professional football, and this year has been awesome. Fall is also a perfect time to shop your home and auto insurance. Shop it like a pro with Swiss Insurance. They cover Woodward Sports Network, and they should be covering you too. Ask for Mark at Swiss Insurance today at swissins.com or call 248-800-4177. Again, that is 248-800-4177, Swiss Insurance.
Join Woodward Sports' own Jeff Iafrate, along with special WSN guests for the most anticipated Lions season in decades. Filled with different surprises and expert analysis. You're not going to want to miss out. Go to our Woodward Sports YouTube channel on Sundays and tune in live from 9:30 to 11:30 a.m.
Gabby is a college student struggling to study for her big exam. Then she discovered Syntron, a healthy way for her to stay awake and focus. Jennifer frequently has chaotic days like this until she gets online, orders some Syntron, and finds her groove. April visited her local grocery store, purchased a case of Syntron, and entered to win the Syntron 100K Vegas giveaway. Pick up your case of Syntron today at any Meijer location or visit drinksyntron.com/Vegas and enter for the 100K Vegas giveaway.
Now, coming to Woodward Sports, Woodward and Main Street, the Woodward Sports Network Detroit Lions show. Let's go! Catch Gabrielle D. Phillips, Matt Broder, and Terry Foster for all the latest news on your Detroit Lions every week. Only on the Woodward Sports Network YouTube channel and woodwardsports.com.
Brand new state-of-the-art sports dome field house. There's a regulation basketball court, volleyball court, and soccer field that can also be used for 7-on-7 football. It's our friends over at the Academy of Warren. Listen, you enroll your child today, you get different features, small classroom sizes, free breakfast and lunch, futuristic media center, all that and more. Enroll them. They're accepting new enrollment. Go to theacademywarren.net. Really quickly, because we kind of just blew past a break, because, we were in some interesting conversation. And I wanted to read this super chat right here from, a very valued member of the program, Freddie Felt 313, $5. Appreciate you. He says, Flannel's a fraudulent Detroit sports fan.
Oh, dear Lord. Just because I add some objectivity to this. I mean, that... And I'm not going to rehash this too much, but it's just the idea. And here's the thing. Every single team in the NFL has blemishes. They have holes.
Yep.
It's just this idea that the Lions are the only team that are above being called frauds. Of course, you can make an argument in some way if you twist your mind enough that the Chiefs are frauds, or the Eagles, or the 49ers, or the Cowboys, or even the Seahawks, or a team like that, or the Ravens. But because it's the Lions, people want to just pearl clutch. Like, oh, how can Stephen A. Smith be so mean? It's our Lions. I don't think the Lions are frauds, but no team, none, 0.0 are above criticism. That's facts.
0.0. Speaking of the Lions, in other news, Marvin Jones Jr., I want to say, because he's a guy that, filled with energy, he's a great human being. He's popped into Woodward Sports a couple times, said what up to the boys. He's just a great guy. And then this comes out yesterday. Lions officially released Marvin Jones Jr. I know Dan hinted at it last week. He was dealing with some personal issues, and he posted this statement. I'll read it out. He says, I just want to say that I have so much love and respect for the Ford family, the city of Detroit, my teammates and coaches. To be brief, I am stepping away from the team to take care of my personal family matters. Although this was no easy decision, I cannot be the player that I need to be for this team, as well as to tend for my family from afar. This organization has been amazing, showing love and support for my family from afar, for my family over the years, and this time is no different. For that, I am appreciative. To my brothers and coaches, I will be rooting for you every step of the way. This is the year. Go get it. Love and respect to all, Marvin Jones Jr. And I don't know exactly what it is, nor do I really care, because it's his personal matter. Whatever it is, clearly it's family related. I just want to say, hey, my thoughts and prayers with Marvin Jones, man. He's just a guy that you want in the building. He's a guy that every team would love to have. And now, does this raise questions regarding the wide receiver room? I mean, Marvin Jones wasn't out there making a significant impact. He was more of a vocal guy. He'd come in, catch a third down pass. He'd have a couple catches, whatever. He just had a role to play. And I think his experience, he's one of the oldest wide receivers. I'm pretty sure one of the oldest players in the league right now. His experience does help the young guys. So I do want to say, man, we appreciate Marvin Jones Jr. But the other thing I want to say is Lions might be looking to maybe add another wide receiver. Yeah. I think it might be one of those things. I know J-Mo's came back, and we're all excited for him, but his development is also up in the air. We want to see more out of J-Mo. So at this point in time, man, the Lions, a move might be on the horizon, and I don't know what exactly it is. We're seeing reports, not reliable reports, but just reports in general that, Brad's picking up the phone. Again, I don't know how reliable these reports are, but regardless, you would assume that Brad's picking up the phone. And there's different teams that are announcing who's available. Like I said earlier, you got the Titans that are saying DeAndre Hopkins, Derrick Henry, they're available. Maybe the Commanders are taking phone calls on some defensive linemen they got, Chase Young, Montez Sweat, I've even seen. And I don't know how true that is. But if we're talking about who to acquire, if I had to pick a position, it's pretty easy to me, Sam Flannel.
Yeah.
You call the Commanders, and you don't let them hang up on you. Yes. You keep spam calling them. Like Brad Holmes, I'd be that crazy ex if I'm Brad. I'd keep calling him. I'd spam him till he blocked me. You got to get somebody over there. Even though, DeAndre Hopkins, and I know people liked him before this season, and trust me, like DeAndre's a great player. If you want to bring him in, I'm all for it. But I think defensively is where the Lions should key in on. But I just want to bring the Marvin Jones thing up because, hey, you got to mention it. So a lot of love to Marvin Jones. Prayers to him.
Yeah, 100%. Prayers to Marvin Jones. And if we're talking about free agency players that the Lions can add, I would agree with you. I said Chase Young yesterday. That is my number one target. But then Jonathan Allen may seem like something that could be realistic, and I wouldn't mind him as well. Either you get a bookend pass rusher for Aiden Hutchinson or an interior defensive line dynamo, which Jonathan Allen is, one of the best in the league, one of the more underrated, under-the-radar players in all of NFL football, by my estimation. If we're talking about wide receivers or whatnot, I wonder where you could find a number 12 overall pick or another number 12 overall pick who is supposed to be a pass-catching dynamo out of the backfield. I wonder where you could find one of those to kind of amp up the production.
Yeah, Jameer, actually, that's a good point because what you saw against the Ravens, that should be the plan moving forward. Like his 8 to 10 targets should be a consistent thing.
I agree.
Even if he at the minimum 8, like he's got to get more involved in the passing game. He's got to be, especially when David gets back. Like you have David in the backfield, you put Jameer in the slot. Like that's how it should be. But Lucas, I guess it is time. We probably should go to break. When we get back, you want to chop it up about some guys you're looking to grab for the Lions?
Yeah, we can for sure. Yeah.
All right, let's do it. All right, first, I do got to tell you about our friends over at Planet Fitness, and then we'll get into more on who's available and who can Brad Holmes grab. All right, Planet Fitness, home of the judgment-free zone where anybody can feel comfortable, work on their fitness goals. At Planet Fitness, they got everything you need, all for only $10 a month and no commitment. No matter where you are, there's always a Planet Fitness close by, more than 50 in Metro Detroit, thousands more throughout the world. We'll see you in a couple minutes.
Woodward Sports' own Tom Mazaway and Sam Stick Day will be hosting our Lions postgame show after every Lions game all season long. Tune into the Woodward Sports YouTube channel for his hot-off-the-press takes, game analysis, and Kool-Aid sipping celebrations. You won't want to miss it. Join Maz, Stick, and special guests each week immediately following every Lions game, exclusively on the WSN YouTube channel.
Burgers and chicken sandwiches are taking over at Big Boy. Try our new pretzel bacon cheeseburger. Turn up the heat with Bob's Hot Chicken Sandwich. Upgrade those regular fries with our chili cheese fries or loaded baked potato fries. Hit your sweet tooth with funnel cake fries or Reese's chocolate peanut butter thunder cake. Load up on all your favorites today at Big Boy.
Join Woodward Sports' own Jeff Iafrate, along with special WSN guests for the most anticipated Lions season in decades. Filled with different surprises and expert analysis. You're not going to want to miss out. Go to our Woodward Sports YouTube channel on Sundays and tune in live from 9:30 to 11:30 a.m.
How would you like to win a $100K Vegas getaway? Take your friends and live it up in the city that never sleeps. It's the Centron Energy Drink It and Live It sweepstakes. Purchase a 24-pack today and enter for your chance to win. Register at drinkcentron.com/Vegas and buy Centron at your local Meijer store. Centron, the healthier energy drink with great taste. Look good, feel great, be the best version of yourself. Once again, that website, drinkcentron.com/Vegas.
You know what made me happy yesterday or 2 days ago? When I looked at my Twitter and I saw a report per Adam Schefter saying that the Vikings are getting calls on Danielle Hunter.
Ooh.
And they could possibly move the NFL sack leader, Danielle Hunter. And, you know, he has 8 sacks entering this week. And if you look at just Danielle in general, I believe he's a free agent this year, so he'd have to be extended. But, man. You also have another report. This is by Diana Rossini, who says the Commanders have made trade clause to take the temperature of the market for defensive ends Chase Young and Montez Sweat. Danielle Hunter, Montez Sweat, Chase Young. Bring him home.
Oh, I'm salivating right now.
Those three, those are like that's the type of players that you need to go get. If we're talking about position of need, if you want to go get a corner, fine. I haven't seen too many premier corners being shopped. Maybe there's one available. But if we're talking defensive ends, my gosh, Sam Flannel, I'll take any of the 3.
I will 100% take any of the 3. I mean, my first choice has been Chase Young, and I've documented as to why he's somewhat of a distress asset, although that's going away with how well he's playing this year. He's had some injury concerns. The Commanders didn't pick up his 5th-year option. Danielle Hunter, here's the thing about Danielle Hunter, and maybe I'm overrating the Vikings a little bit. Do the Vikings think they can make a run?
That's what I was going to ask.
For the wild card.
Do you think they'll trade him?
After last week, beating the 49ers, I don't think when you look at the NFC South, like they have every reason to try to go and still get a wild card spot, especially if Justin Jefferson can come back. Because like, why just tank now? You just showed all of your fans you can beat the best team at home.
This is how I'd operate, because I get that, but at the end of the day, like, Kirk Cousins, his contract's up.
They're still paying him a lot of money, though.
I know, I get that.
They got it. So might as well, if you're paying the man, you might as well try to win with them.
Well, this is the problem I have is being in that tweener stage of a franchise where like you're mid and you're not willing to accept a rebuild. Like they're okay with a wild card appearance. I promise you, if the Vikings make a wild card, they're going to get smacked. Like that's just how it is. So if I'm the Vikings, I do not want to go through that. I'd rather sell our fan base on, you know what, guys? We won 13 games last year. This team ain't it. Let's start from the bottom. Let's trade some of our best assets, and let's draft. But, again, not all GMs can hit on draft picks. I know they hit on Jordan Addison. I mean, he's a damn good player.
Yes.
But still, the Vikings defense, they need talent. And if Danielle Hunter's somebody they want to start that with, cool. But if I'm the Vikings, like, why would you want to be in that purgatory of mid right now? Unless they think Kirk's their franchise and they want to extend him. But Kirk's up, Danielle's up. You got Justin Jefferson that needs a contract. Like, if I'm the Vikings, I'm selling everything at this point. I just don't think the win over the 49ers, it was an impressive win. But to me, that's not something you should be like, you know what, guys? We beat the 49ers. This is a playoff team. Maybe we can make a run. It might be, to me, more of a one-off than the Vikings are legit or they're a playoff team.
No, it could be, and everything would indicate that if the Vikings get a wild card, I would have 0.0 confidence in their ability to even win one playoff game. Hell, that one playoff game might even come against the Detroit Lions, by the way. That would be, I'd say, an ideal matchup for the Lions. But, yeah. The good news, though, is I think the Washington Commanders at this point, there's no question about whether they really feel like they're going to go for it this year. That loss against the Giants, that is the Lions' best friend right now. The fact that the Commanders took that bad loss. Jonathan Allen obviously seems very unhappy. And Montez Sweat and Chase Young, I would love either of them. Chase Young I would prefer by a little bit, but Montez Sweat is a terrifying human being at the edge as well. He's one of the, I wouldn't say one of the better edge rushers in the NFL, but in that tier, a guy who could really be a solid number 2 edge rusher. I mean, he's one of the best number 2 edge rushers right now, and he would have that same role. He would have that same role. Right across from Aiden Hutchinson.
Yeah, he would. Michigan State legend, Montez Sweat.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. But regardless, Montez Sweat's, he's a great player. I wonder what the cost of each would be. I mean, you have Montez Sweat, who needs a new deal. You got Chase Young, who needs a new deal. To me, I would take either. To me, I would have to see what the price of each would be, though. Like, I don't know. Montez I think would be more expensive, but Chase Young I wouldn't mind either. So, to me, it's just pick your poison, whatever you like. And I would take either. I really would.
You're not wrong either way.
I guess Montez, for more like reliability, he's played in more games. But if you can get Chase Young, if you can get Chase Young on a steal, man, like, I'm all on board.
Chase Young still has superstar potential, and I feel like as much as people are understanding and coming around to him more now, I still don't think he's looked at the way that I feel like he should be.
No.
Chase Young has the potential to be the best defensive end in the NFL. Do I think he'll ever be that? No, not quite. But I'll tell you what, he's got the size, the speed, the physicality. He's got everything that you could possibly want. I mean, Lucas, I know you're a fan as well.
Yeah, I mean, I can think of another number 2 overall pick out of Ohio State that's a defensive end that tore his ACL in his second year and turned out pretty good. It's not like his name's Nick Bosa or anything like that. Oh, yeah, but I mean, obviously with those two, my thing is I just don't think Brad's going to go get Chase Young. I think that's too big of a fish. Like, I just don't think that's Brad's forte. I'm not going to be upset if he does, but realistically, I don't think it happens. A realistic move that I could see happening, we talk about the Commanders right now sticking to the NFC East, like a Leonard Williams from the New York Giants. He's in his last year of his contract. They got Dexter Lawrence already, and he's kind of that third piece there. But you talk about a guy, a huge body inside with a presence that could help out Aiden Hutchinson, because Leonard Williams is the type of guy that can rush the passer from the inside. And if you get that to go along with Lee McNeil, to go along with Isaiah Buggs, I think that makes a difference because it lets the outside players, the edge players, they get a little bit more freeing. So I just think that's like a realistic one. That's not my number 1 priority, but if I could see one, Campbell, Dable, they like each other, they have a good chemistry there, so those are organizations that would talk. I could see Leonard Williams becoming a Detroit Lion. It's not my number 1, but one, I think he's on 1-year deal. He's got 1-year deal left, or 1 year left in his deal.
Yeah,
so it's not like you got to go through this whole extension. That's also going to he'll probably cost like a 6th-round pick. So if you're getting that for a 6th-round pick, like that's a guy who can make an impact. And he played great this weekend against Washington too, by the way.
Yeah, he did. Leonard Williams.
You don't like Leonard Williams?
No, it's not that I don't like Leonard Williams. He's just not like if I saw the Lions acquired Leonard Williams, I'd be like, okay, like, cool. Like, he's nice. He has, but you're talking about Leonard Williams in 2020. He had 11.5 sacks. He's never had double-digit sacks the rest of his career.
No, I'm looking at what Leonard Williams is doing right next to Dexter Lawrence. And like
he's got a sack this year.
Those two are, if you watch Leonard Williams' imprint on the game, like, that man eats up blocks. That man would eat up blocks for Aiden Hutchinson, especially if you put him on the outside.
Yeah, I get that.
Like, Leonard Williams, like, I'm not saying he would just turn this franchise around, but you talk about a piece we need a guy on the inside that can rush the passer. And Leonard Williams is a guy that come at a low cost and could be potentially great value.
And that's fair. I guess I'd rather have someone that eat up blocks and get sacks. You know what I mean? Not just like Leonard Williams has had good seasons where he had 6 sacks and 7 sacks.
But
I want a dude who can get me close to double digits.
I
think Sweat, Young, Allen, any of those guys can do that.
You're spot on. Like, everything you're saying is right. But I'm just saying, do we realistically, being 100% honest with each other, do we think Brad's going to make that type of move?
No. That's fair. And I think Leonard Williams, Leonard Williams may be more realistic.
That's what I'm saying. Like, if I'm coming from a realistic standpoint, like the Pat Surtains of the world, the Chase Youngs, the Brian Burns, I would love that. I would be freaking out if we got it. But just realistic moves that we're talking about. And that's a move that would make a difference, too. It would not close the gap entirely, but it brings that gap closer between the Eagles and the 49ers. Any interior defensive line helps this team right now.
Yeah, no, listen, I don't want this to be like I'm not bashing Leonard Williams. Speakeasy says interior guys aren't always going to have sacks. Look at Sue's numbers. Well, I don't know about that. I don't. Would you go Sue to Leonard Williams? Okay.
No.
But,
God,
okay.
no. When you're talking about a guy, like especially Lee McNeil, he's got 2.5 sacks this season. Yeah. That's going to help him out, and that turns him into a more dynamic pass rusher on the inside.
I guess what my ideology, what I'm looking for is like you have some space eaters. Like you got like a Liam who's just a massive human being. I need somebody that's just like a wrecking crew on the other side of Aiden. Is that like you know what I mean? Like you got Benito, you got like I get it. I trust me, I understand it. I do. I guess it's just missing James Houston. I'd want someone that like could get 2 sacks in a game or wreck a game. But you're right. Voice of reason. I'm not hating on it.
No,
Leonard
that's
Williams.
JB. That's JB.
JB, what do you think?
This is the ball knowing booth. JB's the voice of reason booth.
What do you think about this whole thing? Leonard Williams, the Commanders' defensive lineman. Where are you at? Leonard
Williams makes more sense as a move that Brad Holmes might do rather than the whole Chase Young, Brian Burns, Patrick Surtain, because you're obviously going to have to give up a lot more for them. You're in that first, second round pick type of range right there. Maybe not for Chase Young, but I don't mind it. At the same time, like I would love to sit here and pound the table and say, hey, let's go out and get Brian Burns. Let's go out and get Derrick Henry. Let's go out and get one of these top wide receivers, DeAndre Hopkins. It's just not the type of move that Brad Holmes is going to do. He's going to invest low in some of these guys and then see if the return pays off. He's not just going to jump out there and throw out first-round picks. He's not going to be the F those picks. So that's the more realistic option that I can see them going for. But, hey, then again, who knows? I mean, he might sit here and fool all of us and see like, hey, look, I'm going after Brian Burns. Forget you guys.
I don't have a problem, too, if you give up some assets. I'm not saying sell the whole farm or anything like that, but if you trade for a player and you extend them. Because
I think if you do trade for a player that needs extend, that's what you're doing it for.
Like, I'm cool with that because I'll take that over a third-round pick at this point. I mean, if you get a proven player like a Chase Young, like I'm cool with getting rid of a second or a third.
That's gonna cost way more than a second or a third.
Or second and a third.
That's gonna be a first-round pick.
Really?
You get Chase Young, that's a first-round pick for sure. Especially with the Lions, that's a first-round pick. But my thing is like
a first?
Because the Lions are probably like, we're just throwing out a situation. Lions picked 26th this year. I will be very content instead of watching a player walk across a draft board, turning on Chase Young highlights, and being like, damn, it's nice knowing I have this guy across from Hutch. So I just don't see Washington selling him for a second-round pick. I'm sorry. There will be a team somewhere in the NFL willing to give up a late first-round pick, in my opinion.
And if we're being honest, and I don't want to bring this up, the last 3 Brad Holmes first-round draft picks, there are some questions surrounding them. Like, I don't think Jahmyr Gibbs, Jack Campbell, or Jamison Williams any of them are sure things. Brad Holmes has, for the most part, been a wizard with the draft picks, but, someone like Chase Young, I'm just saying.
I know the injury concerns, but like you said, Lucas, we've watched Nick Bosa tear his ACL, and he's been doing just fine.
Yeah.
He just got a bag, actually, a big bag.
Because the Panthers wanted multiple first-rounders for Brian Burns last year, and now he's still not signed. You still think if Brian Burns is going for what I would imagine a first-round pick, so is Chase Young. And you can say whatever you want about the ACL, but the Commanders, I don't see them letting go of Chase Young for something less than a first-round pick.
Unless you want to double dip with the Commanders as well and get Chase Young and snatch up one of their running backs just to get some running back depth as well, too.
Mm-hmm. Not a bad idea.
No, I wouldn't mind that at all. I mean, for Brian Burns, though, you think that him and Chase are the same value? I think Brian's more expensive at this point.
Chase Young's a better player than Brian Burns. That is ceiling.
Not even.
It's. I mean yes, 100%.
It's not a debate. It's not like if both guys are playing their A game, Chase Young, the top 5 defensive end in this league.
Agreed.
Level wise.
Yep.
But that's based off what we know. Like this year, he's having a great year, 5 sacks. But I mean, we
also defensive rookie of the year.
Yeah, but again, that was 3 years ago.
All right.
So you know what I mean? Like at this point in time, I get it. I'm high on Chase too, but we're talking about a guy coming off 12 and a half sacks. You know, I don't know. I do think that not being available last 2 years kind of does help, does hurt Chase Young a little bit. Even though I think he's an incredible player.
Okay.
So you're saying Chase Young would go for more than Brian Burns at this point? Which I don't agree with.
At this point, I don't know. But what I'm saying is, if Brian Burns is most likely going for a first-round pick, then I'm saying it'd probably be a first-round pick in something else, like a 5th round. Chase Young, at the bare minimum, I might give you a 2nd-round pick. But the Commanders are going to do everything they can to get a first-round pick out of Chase Young. He was their number 2 overall pick.
Yeah, no, I see that.
They're going to try to get a first-round pick for him.
Okay.
I think it would be a loss for them if they don't.
Yeah, no, I think Chase is a terrific player. I'm just saying the last 2 years, I just wasn't sure the last 2 years he's played in 12 games.
That's fair.
So if that factors into it, if I'm a GM, I'm definitely bringing that up. I'm going to be I'm going to give you what I think's worth it for a guy who's played in 12 games the last 2 seasons. But this year, he's right back on track. 6 games, 5 sacks. He's that guy. And Brian Burns, on the other hand, is 6 games, 4 sacks. So
also very good.
Yeah. So we'll go to break here. When we get back, we'll get to mailbag. So get your questions ready for that. But first, we got to hear about our friends over at Premier Pet, Sam Flannel.
Absolutely. When it comes to your pet, don't settle. I don't settle when it comes to my golden retriever, Jake, and my orange cat, Milo. Give your pet the best like I give my pet the best. Premier Pet Supply is hands down Michigan's best pet store. Family owned and operated for over 30 years. 13 Metro Detroit locations, over 60 brands of food, lowest prices, and curbside home delivery. Premier Pet Supply. Give your pet the best. Visit their website at premierpetsupply.com.
Your home is your most important asset. Flexibility in the sales process is key. When you work with Mark White & Associates, you can cancel at any time, for any reason, without penalty. Speaking of flexibility, check this out. Who you work with matters. Hire the best broker in the game.
Calling all landscapers. This is Darren McCarty. I'm at Outdoor Equipment Co. How would you like to landscape like a legend? How about a bad boy zero turn? And even a chainsaw. And even a weed whipper. Whether you landscape for your job or landscape for fun, get all your equipment from Outdoor Equip Co., the official equipment provider of Woodward Sports. Michigan grown, family owned. OutdoorEquipCo.com.
Join Woodward Sports and Long Drink live every home game for the official Lions VIP tailgate party. It's at Eastern Market and Shed number 5, and it is always a bash going on next Monday for the Lions' big Monday night football matchup versus the Las Vegas Raiders. It's going to go from about 5:15 p.m. until game time. The official Lions tailgate is back and better than ever. How would you like to pregame it with Woodward Sports to be treated like a VIP? Food and beverages and entertainment all included. Get your tickets online today at bullseyeventgroup.com or win some from Woodward Sports today. Just subscribe to our YouTube, follow us on IG, and direct message Lions VIP.
Let them know, Hefe.
Let me tell you about our friends over at Hamlin Pub, because have you ever wanted to be at a bar where you're known as a regular? And you don't have to be an alcoholic to be known as a regular. They have just a place for you. Head to one of Hamlin Pub's 7 locations and experience where everyone is a regular. Join the Woodward Sports Lions post-game show live from Hamlin Pub in Rochester. Of course, you'll see Stick Maz and more for those post-game shows. We'll see you for a future post-game show there at Hamlin Pub in Rochester. Experience your new favorite pub for all things sports. They'll have everything, every NFL game, and all Michigan sports. let's get to mailbag. And of course, I'm going to get to some of the super chats first before we get to the comments now. Because Algonac Audit sharing some thoughts here. He donated 3 times. He appreciate that. He says, can we trade for Taylor Swift? LOL. No. Please no. Do you think we could trade for Myles Garrett? If so, what's the cost? Hell no. Sorry about that.
Bring him home.
Yeah, bring him home. That is not happening, though. I'm sorry. He's a guy they probably want to keep for the rest of his career. Unless he asks out. Elganac also says, mailbag trade for TJ Watt? No. So all your suggestions, I'm sorry, Elganac, they're not happening. Although I would love TJ Watt. He's my defensive player of the year, right? Myles Garrett, freak show. Yeah, I would love him. That's only a Madden opportunity. That's not realistic. I'm sorry about that. All right. Let's get into some of these comments here because people are already putting them in. Let's see if I can get to the first one. Okay. Tali, I'll just say her Tally. Sorry if I mispronounced her name. Mailbag. How upset would you be if Brad Holmes doesn't make any moves by the trade deadline? I would be upset, man. I would. If he just stands pat, I'd be pissed. Especially when these other NFC teams are making moves. Like we saw it last year with the 49ers. We're seeing it with the Eagles. If Brad just sits there and is like, hey, we're cool, I'll be frustrated. Now, if Brad is aggressively trying to get somebody and it doesn't happen, I won't be as mad. But if he doesn't even pick up the phone, yeah, I'd be pissed.
It would be, and shout out Steve-O, baby. So, because he said that the Lions would be same old Lions in my eyes if they don't. No, that's not what I said. I said if the Lions don't make a move, it'd be same old Lions-ish, where it's just like trusting what you have, not trying to get better, and just not being aware. I feel like it's a lack of awareness if you don't try to make any type of move here.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, Lucas. It's not that they would be the same old Lions. This is a good team regardless, but in the NFL, I mean, it's an arms race. We even forgot to mention San Francisco brought in Randy Gregory. The Eagles traded for Kevin Byard. And the Lions, there are some deficiencies, and I think if there is a silver lining about a 38-6 beatdown on the road against a contender, it's that they may have gotten exposed to where you can actually do something to fix it. I'll give you that.
All right, let's see here. Next question. And I'm going to try and get to as many as I can here. Let's see. Benji says, mailbag, how do we react if the Lions drop to the Chargers? After a bye week, I'd be upset. You have a bye week and then you lose? Yeah, I'm upset. Because Dan mentioning I didn't have them prepared, like, okay, that's okay. Like, you're 5-1, we'll let that slide. But after a bye week, you can't beat the Chargers?
I mean, to me, the Chargers, that's a good, I would say.
Sam, they're allowing the most yards in football.
No, and that's fair. That's the measuring stick for whether the Lions have a shot at the 1 seed or they don't. They got to beat the Chargers if they want that. And the Chargers, I mean, it's like the New Orleans Saints. They're not as... Did people actually think the Chargers and Saints would have losing records when the Lions faced them? The Saints still might not, but still. I mean, these are teams that were expected to be better than they have been.
For this question, too, Jesse, Mailbag, Jeff, JB, you guys upset John Jones' fight is off. I think Aspinall Pavlovich is very interesting for the title. Second question, over-under 29.5 wins for the Pistons. Is that Michael Gentry? He always makes fun of me for the over. First question, though. John Jones out. I think torn pectoral. Pec.
I didn't know what happened because I seen Easy sent the text, but I'm like, I don't know what happened or how the fight
I'm so pissed.
But yeah, I'm upset because that's my guy, John Jones, regardless of his past and what he's been through. But still, that's my guy. I wanted to see him fighting this one.
Yeah, it's like Aspinall and Pavlovich, like, cool.
Like,
but
that's fine.
It's not John Jones.
Yeah, exactly. And Pistons question.
Over? What do you think?
I'm still taking it over. At least 30.
Yeah, I'll go
at least
30. Did I say it confidently? What do you think, Sam?
Over.
Okay.
Yeah. Over.
All right.
Good man, Flannel. Good man.
Over. Jesus. Really? They're going to be one of the worst teams in the NBA again.
Speak easy, my guy. He says Sergey is a monster. Yeah, he's like the Russian, like, I wish I would have saw him in Nagano.
That would have been a good fight.
He is a dude, yeah. Sergey's a behemoth of a human being. He really is. He's a scary man. Let's see. Chase says, mailbag, as good as the Lions have been, are the Red Wings off to a better start? Well, it's different because the Red Wings season is way longer. So at this point in time, the Red Wings have been impressive, but like for the Lions in a 17-game season, it's like hard to compare them. They're both off to good starts. The Lions we expect to win a playoff game, and they're one of the better teams in the league. Red Wings at this point are one of the better teams in the league. I would say the Lions so far but just because it's different. Like the Red Wings could go on like a 5-game losing streak. You know what I mean? It's just different. I don't know.
Yeah, the sample
82 games.
Yeah, the sample size is just so different. But I will say this: I think if the Red Wings would have completed the comeback and beat Seattle last night, that maybe we could make that argument that the Red Wings are off to a better start. But they're both. I mean, shout out to them both teams.
Let's see. One more. Let's get to 2 more questions. We'll try and find 2 more here. Mike G says, Lucas, could you move easy off the block in an Oklahoma drill?
Yeah, I would say I would have to go for the chop block for sure.
Yeah, you got to get him at his knees.
Yeah, but then after that, if he comes tumbling down, I might be in some trouble. That might be the only block I've ever thrown in my life.
But Lucas Klotz would give it his all, though.
Oh, yeah. I'm digging the feet in the dirt. I'm exploding off the line. Easy might think he has a chance, but 170 flying at your ankles might be something else.
That's true. That's fair. Lucian says, Mailbag Sam, who deserves a statue more, D-Mac or Ben Wallace?
If I had to choose between the two, it'd be Ben Wallace.
What was the question?
Who deserves a statue more, Ben Wallace or D-Mac?
If I had to choose,
he went with Ben Wallace.
If I had to choose, it would be Ben Wallace. He's won multiple Defensive Player of the Years.
Oh, no.
He was more integral to the Pistons' success than D-Mac was to the Red Wings.
Interesting.
Interesting.
I gave credit to Ben Wallace. I thought that's what the people wanted.
Yeah, but at the same time, he'll say that, and then you'll turn around and be like, well, he didn't even do anything to Shaq. Shaq still averaged 26, 11, and 3 blocks.
He didn't shut down Shaq.
So what are you talking about then? How did he mean more?
Well, he was Defensive Player of the Year 4 times.
Okay, so that's where you're going.
Yes.
I was just making sure. And by the way, I'm not dissing Ben. I love Ben, but I'm just trying to get where you're. I'm just trying to make sure all your ducks are in order, Sam. That's all.
All right, fine.
Making sure you're consistent. You are. Cy Gray, which is best? Trade for and extend Chase Young, Daniil Hunter, Brian Burns, or trade for Max Crosby in his huge contract? I would go the first option.
Max Crosby's been so good this year. He's been so good.
But that's just the contract. I'm worried about that contract. I think the other guys would be cheaper, and you still get damn good players. That's how I feel.
Damn.
If we're talking in Madden, like I'm going to get Max Crosby. Like I'm playing Madden with Max and Aiden and everybody. But realistically, like that contract, I just don't. I don't even know if the Raiders. You think the Raiders will move him? He's all they got.
I don't think they want to, but I think there's gonna. I don't know, because Max Crosby doesn't seem like the type of guy to like throw a tantrum type of thing. Like I think he's very grateful to be in the NFL. I don't think he'd not at least right now. No, they're not going to sell him. I think they would sell Devontae before Max Crosby.
Speakeasy heavyweights topic today. Question for you kids: grade AG through 8 weeks.
Give him a B.
Yeah, I was thinking B. I was going to go B or B plus because that Ravens game knocked him down a grade, but that doesn't take away anything AG's done. Like I think he's done a great job. So I'll go B with you. I'll agree.
Solid B.
Well,
solid
I mean, Speakeasy and I agree on a lot of things, but I think any answer short of A plus, and he's going to call me a hater. AG deserves a B. Yeah. I'd say a B.
I think a B's fair, and people are chiming in solid B. Silent says, Chuck says B. John Lord says B plus. Yeah, in the realm of B. I said B, and I almost freaked out there. I heard B, so I got to watch.
Yellow on the board behind you. Probably
a lot of B's. Right it's not the B I'm thinking of, but hey, it is what it is.
You're still
all right.
thinking about Killian.
Yeah. Shut up. By the way, Ryan, you son of a bitch. Put me that thumbnail was out of pocket.
That's my favorite one since I've worked here. That's my single favorite thumbnail.
Of course it is. Of course it is.
It's the most realistic one. The fact that he made you bald too, for no reason.
Yeah, like why though? You know what I mean? Was that necessary? Like it's just. I'm pretty sure Easy, by the way, made that. Me bald. And Easy, if you hear this, please correct me. I think Easy made that bald, and then Ryan just took it and added it in the thumbnail. You sons of bitches. All right, we're getting out of here. Appreciate you guys. It's a Morning Woodward show, of course, later on in the programming. You got Big D Energy, Ermanni Edwards with Maz. You got the Heavies, 5 to 7, and, of course, Woodward Nights, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Tune in to the rest of the crew today. Appreciate you guys. Jeff Iafrate, Sam Flannel, JB, and Lucas Klotz. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Please, have a great day, everybody. Go Pistons.